let Amber in.
Okay.
It's working. See, I got my class back here. I don't know how to make myself a full screen though. What do I do to make myself a full screen when I want to show them something? Oh, what did you hit?
I just clicked on your picture over here.
Oh, you click on my picture? Oh, okay. That's all I had to do. Okay. This is James, everybody. This is our savior. This is the guy that knows what he's talking about.
Okay. So
thank you.
You're welcome. Wow. Should be recording for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Amber, say hello to you. There's two people in the room. Okay, let's see. Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Trish. I have 4:30, but let's wait just a minute. We're missing a couple of people's all. Oh. There's Rowdy. Hi, Rowdy. Are you there, Rowdy?
I'm here.
You survived your day with all that first graders?
Barely, but yes.
I'd love to hear their side of the story.
I mean, it was a mostly good day, just long.
It's a long day, yep. Wait till it snows Monday and they'll all want to go out and play.
I hope not.
Oh, Rowdy, let me tell you a funny story. My daughter teaches in Germany right now, and it snowed there. It snowed probably, quarter of an inch. The whole school went outdoors. They couldn't stop them. They're just running out the doors trying to see what it was. And they lost all the kids.
That's hilarious.
Most of them had never seen snow before. And there's 2 inches in Korea right now where my boy is. They don't know what to do. Traffic came to a stop, they said.
Well, thankfully, we've seen snow where I am, so hopefully it won't be too crazy.
Yeah, hopefully Monday. I have to come to the city Monday, and I don't like going over Strawberry very much. Okay, just a couple more minutes. We're only missing by 3 people, so we'll wait just a couple of minutes, let them get hooked on to. I'm going to have a drink, get ready here. Should I tell you a funny story while we're waiting? I just had a drink, and my one daughter is in Germany right now. They're in the Foreign Service, and her husband's in the Foreign Service. She teaches. Just a minute, let's let Stacy in so she can hear the funny story. Anyway, my daughter teaches in Germany, and her husband's in the Foreign Service, and their one daughter is a senior, and their boy's a junior. And on their class today, they had to talk about things that you think about when you mention politics. What do you think of? And when you mention religion, what do you think of? And when you talk about outdoors, what do you think of? And the kids said, well, when we talk about religion, there's some kind of a religion that likes nothing but Jell-O. They're from Salt Lake City and they have Jell-O. She said, we can't imagine what Jell-O is. So Jeannie took some Jell-O to school to show them what Jell-O is. And they said, well, where's the whiskey? You put Jell-O in whiskey and then it makes a Jell-O bomb. And that's all they wanted was the whiskey. So that didn't go over too well today in school.
That's funny, thanks.
I've never heard of a Jell-O bomb. All right, everybody, it's, I think, 4:30. No one else is clicking on right now. Any questions, concerns, anything you want to bring up before we start in? Let me talk just a minute. Oh, just a minute. Let's let Nicole in. Hello, Nicole. We're just getting started. Let me talk to you about recording. Just a minute. Let's let Marie into class. Okay, on the first class, no one missed, but I did record it. And the second class, heavens, one of you reminded us to record it. So we got all but the first 10 minutes. And tonight, this class is recording. I know that a couple of you have an issue that you have to miss. You're allowed to miss one class, but you can always watch the recording. The only reason they say to miss just one class is so that people won't miss all 5 of them and think, oh, I'll just watch it later and be recorded, because you are participants. These hybrid classes are just a lifesaver, because when we first started teaching these classes, we had to go twice a week for 2 hours and only do 2 classes a year. So it took you like 3 or 4 years to get level 1, and people were just dropping out. They didn't have the time and didn't want to put that much effort in it. So SUU has been really, really kind. The U of U hasn't, but the SUU has been very kind to let us have these hybrid classes. 6 classes, meeting 4 hours a week, which is 24 hours of face-to-face and 21 hours of homework, making 45 hours for a 3-credit class. We have to do what all the other universities do. So you are allowed to watch the recordings. I found out on Zoom that there is a basic program and a pro program. The districts get the basic program free. Then if they want to pay for unlimited, which Duchesne District did, we can go 4 hours. Other than that, if you didn't have unlimited, just a minute, let's let Corinne in. We're just talking, Corinne, about the recording. If you just have the basic program for Zoom, you only can go 40 minutes. But the school districts are allowed to go unlimited. So they were nice enough to let us use this unlimited. But to record them to iCloud, you have to have the pro, and the pro costs, and the districts don't do that. Now, I don't know if Uinta district did it or not. Carrie Wilden, who I asked to teach a couple of the classes, Carrie and Marquet, I used to teach all 7 classes. And I thought, you guys need a break, you need different viewpoints. So I only teach 3 of the 7. And Carrie Wilden teach and Marquet Anderson teach 2 of them together, as you just finished. Some of you just finished one of them with her. And then Chris Labram does 2 for me, and she'll be doing the next one. So whether Uinta district has the pro account, I don't know. But Duchesne district does not have the pro account. So I cannot record to the iCloud. I thought I could. So last week we did miss the first about 10 or 15 minutes. So if you're going to have to watch from last week, and there's only one of you that missed last week, that was Jill. So if you don't want to have to go back and watch it, you don't have to. But on the class tonight, we are recording to my computer. And then tomorrow I will come down here to the district office, and James will help me convert it. I don't know what he does, but he converts it to my computer, and then he puts it so it's off my computer, so it doesn't take all my computer space. And all you'll have to do to watch the recording is go Canvas and go to our class agenda, and you'll find the recording, but not till after I come down tomorrow and have it converted. Now, I know Julie was asking me how she can watch the classes, and there's another lady that has to miss tonight because she has a school thing. And when you have to do school things, you just have to miss. Any questions about that, how to watch recorded classes? So if you have to miss, you're allowed to miss one, and then you can always watch the recording, but it'll be posted on Canvas, but it won't be instantly, because I found out my computer doesn't have enough space to record 25 hours of classwork, 24 hours, 6 classes, 4 each, 24 hours. So I will come down tomorrow and James will convert it and put it on the Canvas, and then you can watch it if you need to. I found the cutest article. It came in the UEA book today. It's called, "Do You Have Zoom Fatigue?" There are over 10 million people attending Zoom meetings that they know of right now, 10 million at least. And it is so funny to have Zoom fatigue. And sometimes I think I do have Zoom fatigue. So that's the article I found that's funny tonight. Any comments or questions as we get started? I think everyone's here that's coming. So let's go to Canvas, please.
Did you already take roll, Louise? I'm Corinne. I just got here.
Yes, I do as I check you in. See, as you check into Zoom, I see your name. And so that
Gotcha.
I can just record it right then. So that's what I do. So I don't have to call the roll. Any other questions? Okay, go to Canvas, please. This is our third class. It starts off with an apology. I apologize for issues with Zoom. I am learning. I'm getting a little better at it. I'll be glad when we go back to the IVC classes, which is, I think, a better system. But we're doing okay. This COVID really worries me. Last week, we talked about cliches a lot. We talked about don't be the sage on the stage. Be the guide on the side. We also learned a new one last week called don't be the clown on the town. And I have a funny BYU story to tell you. My one daughter whose husband is in the Foreign Service is right now stationed in Berlin, Germany. And her daughter is taking a BYU American history class. And the professors don't really care that much about all these freshmen coming in. So they, instead of doing 7 sessions to help all the BYU freshmen take this American history class, they decided to do just 1 class and Zoom it. Well, there are 1,400 freshmen in that 1 class. So they've decided to be like clown on the town. They have to entertain and keep 1,400 students entertained for 3 hours a day to teach American history for the BYU. So they're doing it like a sports thing. They have a big board behind them. They're singing and dancing and trying to entertain these kids for 1,400 kids. So that's my story of clown on the side, clown on the town. My cliche is it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And I guess that's me. I'm the old dog because I'm a lot older than all the rest of you. So it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. I think the saying goes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But at least the rest of the classes, we will go back to use the IVC system, which I think works better. Okay, on our agenda tonight, it says that, just to review, whenever you see red, that's a strategy. Whenever you see green, it's a handout. Whenever you see the color purple, that's personal information. Have any of you tried using color as one of your strategies? What do you do in your room to call attention to things using color? Anyone want to speak up?
I'll speak up.
Okay,
This
go
is
ahead.
Nicole.
Uh-huh.
So I started using Canvas for the first time this year in my class. And
What happened? We can hear you, Nicole. We could hear you. What happened?
can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my computer is being really wonky
I know.
tonight, so you may have issues.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so I'm using Canvas and I'm putting my assignments on there. And so when I'm in Canvas creating the assignment, I give the instructions and then I have a link to because I like them to do it in a Google Doc. So I create this Google Doc and I've been putting it first off in bigger font size, but I've been making it in a color so it sticks out so that when they open.
Go ahead, we lost you. Are you muted? We lost you. Go ahead, Nicole. We lost her for a minute. Maybe her computer's giving her some trouble. Nicole, are you lost? We'll have to wait until she comes back in. But if you go ahead, Nicole, are you back? Thought I could.
Okay, I'm back. I don't know how much you got.
Go ahead, we lost it.
Where did you lose me at?
You said when I started using color on my computer and having a Google Doc.
Okay, perfect. So when there's a link in the assignment, it's in color and it's in bigger font, so it sticks out from the rest of the text. So they know that that is something important and they know that they need to click on that to get to the assignment that I want them to work on. That's essentially it. So it's a little thing, it's not anything big,
Yeah,
but I think it helps them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my teacher says this is important. Yeah. Anyone else use color in their room effectively? I don't know if you heard last week, but remember the research says That color for a purpose is very helpful, but be very careful that you don't change it around and confuse them completely. And that if a child has a lot of disorders or attention deficit and so forth, if you have a lot of stringy things, hangy things, they're not quite sure where to look, if things are catching their attention, just be careful how you do decorate your rooms. I know you like them to look nice, and especially in the lower grades, and the children like it too, and they like it changed, but they have to be a purpose for it. We talked about it in the 7 Ps, having a purpose for things. And if too much, it can be just too distracting for children. Any other comments or questions? We want to get going. Any questions?
So I was just going to add real quick
Go ahead.
something that I do. So in my room, so when we work on like blends or digraphs or constant or vowel teams, I will put examples up on my magnetic, like on the back door. And at first I was like, I don't really know if this is doing anything, but I put, so whatever like the blend or digraph is, I put them in blue and like the rest of the text is black. And my kids have been talking about like how much it's helped them, that they're like, oh, CK says K. We know that because it's over on the board. So yeah.
Once in a while, I go in the rooms. I have a student teacher right now in 1st grade, and her room is so cluttered. I mean, it's good things. She has a board over here with words. She has a board over here with important things, and a board over here. But she'll say, look at the red board, and then they don't know where to look first. They're all looking everywhere. They're just confused. You can do too much. So be very careful, and then it does great for emphasis. It does. Anybody else want to say anything?
It can also help you tell kids where to go. You know, we have a blue table or a white table, or that helps give when you're giving direction.
Yep, this room that I'm in right now is at Union High School, and they use it a lot for training teachers. And I don't know why, but on every table there's a playing card. So I'm on five clubs, and that lady's on 3 hearts. So I don't know what her system is, but apparently it means something to the teachers that she trains. So yeah, just simple things, simple strategies that help you to organize. And a lot of you talked about organization this week in your posts. I hope you're taking time to read other people's strategies. I think in my mind, it is so much more worthwhile to you to read other people, the experts in your classroom who are using strategies in their room than to read the textbook. Just a minute, let's let Jennifer in. Jennifer, we're glad to welcome you. We're just getting started. I think the textbook is good, but it's so much more useful if you can read posts from all your teachers out there that they tried this and it worked, or this didn't work, because that's boots on the ground. There's another cliche, that's boots on the ground. So even though the textbook is good, it wasn't worth $100 and something. And so that's why I hope you take time to read other people's ideas. Anybody else want to contribute anything? All right, then let's go to Canvas, please, and go to our agenda so we can see where we're at. It says, I was glad to see your questions. A lot of you asked me questions this week about things. A lot of reflections and a lot of ponderings. A lot of you asked, how do you know when children are ready to read? How do you know that with these little children? How can you tell what level they are and what stages they've missed? I'm glad that you like the handouts. The ones that people seem to like the most were the stages of literacy development, the importance of emergent literacy, the parent involvement, and a ZPD. Okay, we're down to a red strategy. A red means we're going to do something. Using the whirlwind theory. What are the 3 points of the whirlwind theory? Rowdy, let me pick on you right off. Do you remember the 3 points of the whirlwind theory by Vygotsky?
No, I don't.
Okay, that you're very honest. Who does then? Lauren, do you? Lauren Bliss, you remember?
I don't.
Okay. Kate Thomas, do you remember? Kate?
That would be a nope.
Okay, well, good. This is wonderful. Let me review then. Vygotsky had the idea that if tomorrow I'm asked to play a piano concerto in Woodbury Hall or wherever you're going to play it at, I would not start Monday night trying to learn my big long piece to play in that concerto. I would practice a long, long time until I had the piece down. And then I would do short practices on the pieces I'm having trouble with. So he came up with a theory like a whirlwind. A whirlwind, at the top of a whirlwind, it goes around and around, great big whirlwind, and then it gently narrows and narrows and narrows and narrows, and a tornado hits the ground. So he saw that and he said, that is education. We need to do short, intense, frequent, SIF, short, intense, frequent reviews. And then we'll remember things. That's like the big whirlwind. You start out learning a whole bunch about math, but then you narrow it down until you come to the actual problem that you're doing on your page. You know a lot of math facts, but only the one helps you do the problem. So you take all this big information that you tell these children, but then you practice short, intense, and frequently. I've been trying to do this in remembering names. I know everybody in our whole area. And then when I go to think about them, I have to just every now and then remind myself their name, say it over and over 4 or 5 times, and then you don't forget. And this is a good strategy for children. If you really want them to know something, you teach it to them. You teach them the big concept, you read about it, you do everything you do, but then you do short, frequent, intense little practices. So what we're going to do now is tell a partner, I wish you had a partner, or tell yourself, you learned a lot about literacy development last week. You learned a lot about parent involvement. So using the ZPD, think about one thing now that you thought was the most important about literacy development and the most important about parent involvement. And then using the strategy accountability, I'm going to call on a few of you to say, what did you do? What was the most important thing you learned on literacy development? What's the most important thing you learned about parent development? So take 2 to 3 minutes now. Your assignment is to come up with the most important thing on parent involvement and literacy development. Take 3 minutes and ponder inside yourself, or talk to somebody if you're lucky enough to have somebody. Okay, Rowdy, we just let you back in again. Are you having trouble with your computer too?
No, I'm just switching computers.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to ask Trish. I'm going to ask Cheyenne. And I'm going to ask Marie Roberts. So be thinking about one important thing you learned about literacy development, one important thing about parent involvement. The rest of you just think inside your head. Short, intense, frequent practice. 1 more minute to think. Cheyenne, tell me one thing that you thought was important that you learned about literacy development, please.
I thought it was really important that parents talk with their babies, whether that's narrating what they're doing or having those conversations. I don't remember if it was reading or from the video, but about the dad who was having a conversation and his daughter would like babble back and he'd respond.
Right. And sometimes we do that with babies, but like a lot of you mentioned the fact that we forget about them when they are 2 and 3. We hand them an iPad or a phone. We're busy driving down the road, talking on our phone or something, and the baby gets no conversation. So it is important. It is very important. Okay, Trish, what did you learn about literacy development and parent involvement?
There I
Patricia,
am.
there you are. Thank
Okay,
you.
here. Sorry, I couldn't unmute. I just remember the conversation about having books in the toy baskets for kids when they're just little, so it becomes the usual, the normal thing to see books and pictures and things like that from their earliest memories.
Exactly. Good idea. And Marie Roberts, what did you learn?
I was thinking that like with parent involvement that you want, I think it was one of the policies that we talked about, how you want the parents to understand the continuum, but you need to explain it and help the parents understand the development before expecting them to work on the development. So
Good. And thank you for your participation. Now, is that an effective strategy? I taught you something, say I taught you something very important last week. I taught you all about literacy development, or I taught you about parent involvement. Whatever you taught them last week or yesterday, they forgot about it. I mean, it's kind of in their mind, it's there, they remember you talking something about it. But now using SIF, short, intense, frequent practice, all of a sudden it's coming back to you. Oh yeah, I do remember that. We're also using the strategy of accountability. Oh, she's going to call on me. I'm going to have to think about this. We also talked about the affective filter. Who can explain to me the affective filter? We don't know, or we're not very brave. Which are we? Do I need to call on someone? How about Jill Thompson? Do you know anything about the affective filter?
I was not here last week, so I don't
That's right. I'm sorry. So this will be
have no idea.
How about Corinne? Can you explain it to Jill?
I don't quite remember discussing it, but if I'm thinking of just those words,
What does that mean?
does it just mean that you're filtering out information you don't need, or filtering in information you do need?
No, you're close. You're very close. It's important. Think of the word affective, AFFECT. That's your emotions. That's how you feel. So if you know you're going to be called on, you're more apt to be ready to be called on. When you walk around the room, you raise and lower the affective filter. As you walk by some child, all of a sudden they're busy or pretending to be busy. At least they know you're there. It's our emotions. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to not be prepared. So you raise or lower it by your voice or by your voice quietly. You raise it by your voice, your presence, how you call on people, whether you don't call on people. If Rowdy knows that I'm not going to call on him all night tonight, he'll probably have a good nap. But if he thinks there's a chance he might be asked to be called on, or he's going to have to work in a group, you're going to be more involved. Such a simple strategy, but our emotions go up and down. And you also have to be very careful. Some people are very, very nervous. If the teacher's walking very close to them, it raises their affective filter so high that they panic. They shut down. Especially as I teach the bilingual classes. They don't want to be called on. They're not sure that they're going to know the answer. They don't want to be embarrassed. They want to, that's why you do group work first, so they have a chance to have an answer that they can give somebody. So if the teacher calls on Jorge, he's going to say, oh, we talked about, so I'm not responsible for this wrong answer. We talked about this. Someone to help you feel secure. Not one of us, like I do, feel unaffected by this Zoom. It raises and lowers your affective filter. You have a filter that says, I'm safe. I'm sitting back behind this filter. If you raise it and take it away from me, I'm exposed and I may be embarrassed or I may not know the answer. I don't want to look dumb. So you keep people on task, especially in the junior high level. I watched a very effective teacher today. There was about 45 people in the class today, and he was giving a lecture on safety and COVID and just all these things. And they've heard so much about it. It's almost like burnout, like that Zoom fatigue that I showed you. They've heard so many bad things. And he wanted them to know how important it was to the testing and it was coming and the rapid testing and the vaccinations. So he was walking around the room and he noticed about 5 of them with their phone down underneath their desk and they were not paying attention at all. So as he walked around them, right behind him, and just stood there, didn't say anything, just stood there and just went on his lecture. All of a sudden the phone got put away and they were paying attention because they knew they were being watched or somebody was in close proximity to them. So how close you are, or the level of your voice, or even your facial expressions, or some of the words you use. If you're using great big words and nobody's understanding them, they tune you out. So the effective filter is a very effective strategy of how do you keep everybody on task. That's why those teachers at BYU, they were teaching 1,400 freshmen all at the same time for 3 hours. They decided to be clowns on the town and do it like a sports. They had a big board behind them and they would do figures and dance and art and they'd bring some music in, just trying to keep their attention. So the effective filter is your emotions and they're very powerful. They're very powerful. If you feel safe, you're bound to say something and try and experiment. If you don't know what you're doing and you can't understand the language or you hear it in English, you have to think about it and change into Spanish or other words and then say it back out again. It takes more time. So that's a very, very simple strategy. Anybody want to make any comments or examples about that, the effective filter, what you do to keep students on task? Okay, just think about it though. How do you feel when I just said, I'm going to call on 3 people? You think, oh dear, I might be the one of them. Then I named those 3 people. So the rest of you went, I'm not going to be called on. It lowered your effective filter, but it raised it for Marie and Trish and Brindy. So think about the effective filter. Okay. Any other questions on that one before we move on? I don't want to leave you not knowing.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment.
Go right ahead.
It does work really well, even if you're just walking around a room while you're teaching, versus teaching from the front or from a side or by your document camera or whatever you do. It really helps keep your children on task if you're walking around the room.
It does. Just you being close to them and smiling at them or making some comment. Just like we talked last week about how powerful praise is. You can say, good comment. Oh, you thought about that. The next time they're going to be even better at it. Just simple strategies, but it makes you a better teacher. Makes you communicate with your audience better. That's why Zoom is so hard, because I wish we were in the same room, but you're so far away, but you're not. We're all together in this class together. Okay, our class is very diverse. I've been looking at looking you all up. We have students that have degrees in early childhood. We have a lot of you with other degrees, endorsements. We have teachers in our class from preschool, elementary, middle, junior high, district assignments. We have students in our classes with and without children at home. And some of you don't have any early childhood training, you're all secondary. In other words, we have just a typical class, just like you have every day, coming from all different backgrounds, all different prior knowledges, all different circumstances. I'm trying very hard to meet the needs of all of you. If I'm not, and here's a purple one, this is a purple, it means personal, please let me know how to meet your needs if they're not being met. I am not embarrassed if you call up and say, I don't know what you meant about effective filter. Tell me more. Or I didn't get that handout, I didn't understand it. Tell me and I'm glad to help you find things. I gave you a list last week of a lot of different strategies. And I said, if you don't know any of them, tell me which one you'd like to know more about and I will post it. There is no sense me taking this book. Let me show you the book again in case you don't remember. Just a minute, I pull that screen down, find this book. I have so many strategy books and some of them are good ideas and some aren't. This one's called 50 Literacy Strategies, Step by Step. So if I turn to one and said, this one's called Sustained Silent Reading. If you have never heard of sustained silent reading, tell me, and I will post this page for you with the directions to give you some ideas to follow. Most of you are so experienced already and all that, you really don't need that. But if you do, please tell me, don't be embarrassed. Effective filter, we all don't know everything. Even though my grandkids sometimes think grandma does, but she doesn't. She really doesn't. All right, so 6 of you sent me a request to please share some ideas about sight words tonight. So we have some things about sight words. A lot of you asked about visual learning. You had never thought about viewing and visually representing. You knew the 4 parts of language arts were reading, writing, speaking, and listening, but you'd never thought about visual learning and comprehension. So we're going to look at that later on tonight. I'm glad that some of the strategies that I posted have been helpful for you. A lot of you like that strategy booklet. Did you have time to look at that from last class? Let me go back and show you what I'm talking about. Let me go to my modulars. Let me go to class 2. In class 2, and if I go down the scale in class 2, wait a minute till I make it go down. I put on a literacy book with lots of ideas. Let me show you where it's at in case you don't know. At the very bottom, it says, I'm almost to the bottom of class 2, almost to the bottom, and almost, there's a lot of handouts here for you so that some will, I hope, find something of interest to you. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm going down class 3. We all make mistakes. I'm sorry. I will go back and find class that, nope, that was the right one. Let me go down it and find it to the bottom. Go down faster. Class 3. Okay, I'm having trouble finding it. Let me show you what it is. And I know it's there, so I'll find it in just a minute rather than waste time. It's called the Literacy Strategy Book, and it has a whole bunch of ideas in it. So I'm hoping
It's in class 1.
it's in class 1. Well,
Class 1. Mhm.
thank you. Together we can get through this. Okay, let me go to class 1. I thought I put it in 2. Class 1. I think it's at the bottom of that one. Let me pull that up. And class 3 again. Huh. Okay, just 1 second. I can master this. I don't know why. Let me go up that one. What Christian learned, their toddler, principles and guidelines, the reading mother. Class 2. Okay, class 1. There it is. Thank you. And at the bottom of that one, I love this. I love this. Class 1. Open up, class 1. Stay open. There you go. I figured it out. Just 1 second till I get to the bottom. And there it is. Persistence. The Literacy Strategy Book. There are lots and lots of ideas in this booklet. I hope it's helpful to you, mostly for content area teachers. So I'm trying to meet the needs of from kindergarten, because some of you teach kindergarten, quite a few of you, and some of you are secondary, and some of you are not in the classroom right now. So that should be a lot of help to you. Did anybody try that and find anything in that they liked? Okay, that's just there as a resource for you. Okay, let's go back to class 3. So tonight, let's go to the agenda again. And here we come. And there we are. Anybody lost? Anybody with me? So it says, so glad you found the Literacy Strategies booklet handy. I made it bigger. I made it in green to catch your attention in case you forgot to even look. I had about 11 of you ask if I could share just a little bit about my family. I guess we need to have this togetherness. I forgot that some of you join at different stages. A lot of you know me really well because I teach 3 of these classes. But I just want to tell you just a little bit about me. Let me show you a picture. I don't know if you saw this picture in the paper the other day, but in the 1950s, there was a polio epidemic. And these are called iron lungs. Is anybody out there familiar with the iron lung? Speak up if you know anything about the iron lung.
Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Right. My husband was 14 years old and in Provo High School, Provo Elementary Junior High, when he went home one day and did not feel very good. And the next day, he was in the old Salt Lake Hospital in Salt Lake in an iron lung. There were about, in Provo High that year, I think there were 51 kids that came down with polio. It was a big scare, just like right now. We don't know about this virus. They don't know where it came from. It came from swimming pools. They couldn't swim. It came from the air. They couldn't breathe. I mean, they didn't know. They didn't know where it came from. And he was completely paralyzed, and all he could move were his eyelashes. And he was in that iron lung. And he's finding now that the doctors he has now don't know a thing about it either. So when he hurts in different places, they don't have a clue. It's called post-polio syndrome. They don't know how to help him. But he decided, and we all have challenges, and we're having challenges right now, he wasn't going to let polio define him. He hasn't had a day since he was 14 years old that he hasn't been in terrible pain, but it never gets him down. He is so glad to wake up every morning. He still works for the district. He spent 35 years in Duchesne, UN district. He's been in Duchesne district 20 years. We run a big farm, big ranch. He can do all the equipment. His legs hurt because of the polio. But he is a research study right now because the University of Utah said that if you have weak muscles, you don't exercise a lot because you wear them out. You literally wear them out and they quit. And you kill what's called a horn cell, and horn cells don't replace themselves. But yet he works constantly, walks constantly, but when they have him come to the research lab, he walks in. He does use a cane now just so he won't tip over on the left side because that's the left side that was paralyzed the most. But the other people that come in wheelchairs or don't come at all because they're no longer here. So they can't figure out why. He is an anomaly. They can't figure out why. So overcoming issues, and you have children in your classrooms overcoming issues right now. They're talking about the mental and social well-being of your children and the teachers. If you watch the news, the Salt Lake District, the teachers can't decide whether to go back. They had to have a lawsuit. The parents did a lawsuit to make the children go back, teachers and children go back to school. So be aware of that. That's the affective filter too. They are worried, they are nervous. And sometimes what you're teaching, as wonderful as it is not the most important thing in their life right now. So my other children, we have 4 children, 2 are attorneys and 2 engineers, and the one that's the engineer is also a college professor, and she teaches in Germany. So that's my family, and we run a big farm. Is there anything else you wanted to know? I mean, I don't want to spend time on that, but I just, you said you wanted to know a little bit more about me. I've taught a good many years, as you can tell. I started in, you ready? 1960. So we're still going, and I love it. I love education. It's the best field in the world. And I admire all of you teachers. I just admire what you do. So, okay, now let's review. Here it's in green. Green means handouts. We're going to review and close up now on those early handouts. If you look on your canvas, if there's a capital E in front of the handout, it's going to be something about early childhood. So we'll look at them, and we'll just go down through them, and we'll look at them later, but I just want you to be aware of them. So please go to your modulars, and we'll go down class 3 so that you know what the handouts are. Any questions, anybody lost? Anybody needs to know what we're at and what we're doing? Okay, on class 3, there's the agenda. Then there's some theorists. We're going to look at that in a minute. We're going to look at some stages in the middle years now. We're going to move up and leave the early childhood. This is the last time we're going to talk about early childhood. We're going to move on now. We're going to look at some stages, a timeline, what reading is. We're going to look at the reading process. We have a little funny thing about what difference a letter makes. We're going to look at sight words because you asked me for sight words. We're going to do some more about sight words. We're going to do some more about sight words because a lot of you asked for help and I'm trying to help you. Let me go down a little bit more. We're going to look at I have a little test for you tonight to see how you're doing. Just a pre-test. Now, did your affective filter just go up? Oh, a test. I'm not ready for a test. Don't worry about it. It's just a review of things that we've talked about. We're going to look how we teach third graders because some of you are at that level. I have a huge booklet for you here tonight. It's called Viewing and Representing. It's a great big booklet, has a lot of ideas that we will look at. And then you can look at it later if you're interested, because Andragogy says, if I'm interested, if it has sense and meaning, then I'll look at it. I have a great big book here for you called Ultimate Comprehension Toolkit. I think you'll really like that. We have some language arts topics, a structured word inquiry. That's that spelling story I told you about that I'll tell you some more about. That's very different. You may or may not agree with it. I'm not sure I do either. We're going to talk about how important you are. We have a lot of handouts here called When the Young Readers Get Stuck, Teaching Phonics, 10 Things to Know About Reading, Beginning to Read. You asked for another copy. I don't know, maybe the other one didn't make a good copy or something. You asked for another one of 6 T's of literacy instruction. They are very important, simple things to do. We're going to look at becoming literate. That's some of the handouts that we're going to be doing tonight so that you'll have them all here. And then we're going to have a review of what a novice reader is, an experimenter reader, and a conventional reader. And I was lucky enough, when you get to the conventional readers, you'll see I was on a research team to help write part of the stuff for this book. So I'll show you that. And then when it has an E in front of it, these are the ones from early childhood. Just a review, short, intense, frequent practice about early childhood. If you already know everything you need to know, then you don't even care about them. But look at these, and these are the different ones. Jean Chall was one of the big researchers, and there's a great PowerPoint here about learning how to read. There's a study about what age, what mental age, and what chronological age should children learn things. Some facts about literacy. And at the end is article reports. And so many of you have asked already that we're going to stop a minute, look at this, and then take a little break so you won't get on overload. On classes 4, 5, and 6, remember, the only outside assignment you have, other than just posting twice on Canvas about your experience in each class and your strategy, we're going to find an article. Remember, it said read 3, just choose 1 to tell the class about. I've made a possible schedule. I want you to look at it and see, because some of you said I have to miss this one or I have to come late. In class 4, think about whether Jill, Tony, Rowdy, Jennifer Johnson, Brindy, Nicole, Becky, Corinne, and Amber. Think about whether class 4 works for you. And in a minute, I'll ask you if you have time to think about it. In class 5, we'd have Kate, Suzanne, Marie R., Stacy, Jenny Jenkins, Beth, Lauren, Shanda, and Julie to give their report. And in the last class, Andrea, Ginger, Charlotte, Nancy, Trish, Cheyenne, Marie, Carrie, and Lauren. Okay, we're going to take a minute now because so many of you noticed that you've been looking ahead. And when something bothers you and you're looking ahead, that affective filter says, I'm not going to listen to what she's saying right now. I'm more concerned about when my report is. So we're going to take a 10-minute break now. Think about whether those times work for you. When I come back in 10 minutes, I'll ask you, does that work for you? And you can say yes or no. Any idea what we're doing now? Any questions? Okay. We've been here in half an hour. See you in 10 minutes now. Move around, take a break. Think about whether those work for your reports. See you in 10 minutes.
Louise?
Yes, Go ahead.
This This is Rebecca. I don't see my name anywhere on there.
Oh, did I counted them? Becky, did I put you down as Becky? I think I did. Becky, I thought you went by Becky instead of Rebecca.
Nope, I've always gone by Rebecca.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Let me change that to Rebecca right there then. That was you.
That's okay. That's why I couldn't find myself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm here if you have any questions, anything you want to talk about while we take our break. Amber, are you there? Amber?
I'm here.
Is this being hard on you since you're not teaching right now? Are we meeting your needs, or is it just, are these assignments hard for you?
Well, it's hard for me to actually apply it to my teaching, but I don't know.
I've enjoyed
It's fine.
your
I can do
comments.
the assignments.
Yeah, your comments have been okay. Just think about what, I might do, or this might work, or someday I might like to try this. Just kind of review strategies. I know you're not teaching them, or do something with your own children. Do you have children, Amber?
Just one. She turned 7 months today.
Oh, good. Well, there you go. You have somebody to do it to. Teach her. I just want to make sure we're not making it too hard on you, because you're the only one that's not in a classroom.
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
As long as my assignments are fine with you.
Yeah,
Then
you're doing
I'm
fine.
good.
You're doing fine. And then Jennifer Johnson, I know you're on Jeremy Ranch, and you're not in the classroom either. Is it meeting your needs, Jenny?
Is this class meeting my needs? So this is Jennifer Johnson. I'm an interventionist, so
Yeah.
I work with students every day. So this class is meeting my needs. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. I've had a lot of students from Park City. I used to come to all your schools and visit all of them, and I taught up there for a long time. I drove up there every week. I'm so glad I don't have to drive every week.
Wow, I'll bet that was
For years.
was a haul.
Drove up there, and I got to visit all the schools. You had a lot of your people in the research classes, level 2. And I got to come to all your schools and watch. Beautiful place up there.
Oh, thank you.
Suzanne Sheridan, are you there? You're special ed. Is this helping you, or is this hard on you? Suzanne?
Came back on, ask the question again, is that for class number 5?
Suzanne, are you there? Suzanne Sheridan? Maybe she's on her break.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can, yeah.
What's your question if I can do class number 5?
You're in special ed. Are these classes meeting your needs okay? Is there anything we need to cover for you?
Oh, yes. I am learning so much, and I'm grateful for everything, all your knowledge, and yeah, it's super helpful.
Okay, good. Yeah, I taught special ed
Thank you.
for a while too, and I just want to make sure I'm meeting your needs. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. You have about 5 more minutes on your break. Move around a little bit, get the blood flowing. All righty, are we back? Jill, does that work for you? Jill, let's look at our agenda. Just say yes or no. Does it work for you to do class 4? Jill? Tony? Maybe we're not all back yet.
That works for me. This is Tony.
That's Tony. Rowdy, does that work for you?
Yep.
Jennifer Johnson?
Yep, I can do it.
Brindy? Brindy, does that work for you? Nicole?
Yep.
Becky? Rebecca?
Yep, that works.
Corinne? Corinne, Amber?
Works for me.
That's Corinne or Amber?
Amber.
Okay, Corinne, is she there back yet? Okay, class 5. Kate, does that work for you? Kate? Suzanne, does that work for you?
Yep,
Marie,
that works.
Marie, Robert, does that work for you?
Yes, it does.
Stacy,
Yep, works for me.
Jenny Jenkins,
It works for me.
Beth,
Yep.
Lauren?
That will not work. That's the night I have parent-teacher
That's
conferences.
what I was wondering. Would you want to go to 4 or 6?
I can go to 6. That's fine. Or 4. It doesn't matter. 6 is great.
Okay, we'll put you in 6. Okay, Shanda,
Yes, that works for me.
Julie,
Yes, that's great.
class 6. Andrea,
Yes.
Ginger? Ginger? Charlotte? Charlotte, does that work for you? Nancy? Nancy Polson, does that work for you? Trish?
Yes, that works for me.
Diane?
Yes.
Marie G, does that work for you? Marie? Carrie's not here. Carrie had to take tonight off. Laureen, does that work for you?
Yes, that's great.
Okay, let's move on. Any other questions or concerns? All right, let's go to our agenda then and see where we are, please. Let me pull up the canvas. Let's go up to our agenda, please. And we'll see where we are for tonight. All right, there are 6 handouts there about early childhood. So if you still don't have enough information or want to know more, you can go to the ones with a capital E in front of them, and we'll just look at all of them, and then you can look at them later if you need to do that. Okay, go to canvas number 1. It's about a theorist. And so glad you are realizing that these theorists have great ideas, but also recognize that you are experts. And you're starting to question about who's proposing what theory and why. So if you go to canvas number 1, right here, it's called Theorists and Reading. And bring it up like this, and you'll find that here is a list of more of the current theorists that are affecting your work right now. Gail Tompkins. Now that book I just showed you about all these different literacy strategies, if you want to know more, she wrote that book. So she's affecting some of the things you do right now. She published her book in 2011, and she supports that reading readiness comes from all these ideas. If you haven't done All About Me, alphabet books, using big books, even in high school, I saw the most effective strategy yesterday. It was using these great big books, meaning the huge, big picture books. It was in a 11th grade science class for the elite of the class. I mean, they were the can't remember what they're called. Anyway, they were the top students, and they used big books talking about volcanoes. And those students were just as interested in that as they were with a great big textbook. He used it very effectively in the high school. Anticipation guides, prediction guides, author's chair. We had a lady in Park City who, her 3rd grade class, she just could not get them interested in literature. She'd read them stories, they were bored, they weren't listening, they couldn't figure out the main ideas, they just weren't with her. So she had a big old soft chair that she brought from her house, and each of them got to be the author. First of all, they had to read somebody else's work and tell the students about it. They got to sit in the chair, wear this crown, and then they had to write their own little book. This was in 3rd grade, of course, knowing that 3rd grade is what you're capable of. Every boy and every girl in that class wanted to sit in that chair and be the author of the day. And it was short. It took 10 minutes of her day. And by Christmas time, she had those children so involved in literature and reading. It was amazing how she turned some of them around just by simply letting them tell about a book they liked and their own little story. Book boxes, book talks, choral reading, closed procedures. These are some ideas that Gail Tompkins has come up with, if you haven't ever tried those. I don't know if you know who Ray Reitzel is. Ray Reitzel was a professor at BYU, and then he moved to Utah State, and right now he's at the University of Wyoming. And you'll see his name a lot in the references of who's contributing to books. He's won a lot of big awards. He's been out here helping the students in what used to be called Todd School. Now it's called Eagle View, that has the Native Americans. He's been out there trying to help them a lot. So in 1986, he suggested these things. I'm not going to read them all through for you because you can read as well as I can, but he suggested these are good things to use. Donna Wilson and Marcus Conyers, they have one called Flourishing in the First 5 Years. It's an excellent one for parents. How do I get them to flourish in the first 5 years? Not just grow, not just eat and go to bed and get up again, but flourish. Lev Vygotsky, and there's his books. Piaget, of course, we know who he is. Leslie Morrill wrote some good ones in the preschool. And here's another one called Children's Language, Janet Allen. Number 9 is Sue Palmer. People you haven't heard about, but are making a dent in our field right now and making a contribution. Mari Clay, clear back in 1979, she went along with Vygotsky. And I sorry, but I agree with her and Vygotsky that our kindergartens are turning too much into the first grade, and it's too much seat work and too much testing and so forth. And playing is needed. Play is needed, and language is needed. And that's their theory, and that's my theory. So, you know, and then Don Holloway, Foundations of Literature, the Upstart program. Remember, I told you that if you have parents in your area, this is a free program from the Utah State Office of Education. It's for 4-year-olds. Comes to their computers, gives them a good start. And then, of course, Pinelli and Fontes, Literacy's Beginning. So those are some of the newest theorists out there now. Does anybody know of any more, or have you used any of those that I just showed you? You know, are you familiar with any of these? Have you been in workshops with them or anything? Okay, there's just some ideas then of new people and new ideas. Just want to be sure that you know that, and you can be an expert too. I was lucky enough to be on that research team to help write about what novice, experimenter, and conventional teams are. And it was fascinating to write and publish and work, actually get down and boots on the ground and do what is working and what is not working. So I hope you will take time to do that. Okay, now let's go back to our agenda, please. We're going to leave the early childhood. We spent 2 classes on it. They used to spend 4 of the 6 on just early childhood because it is so important and it's being left out a lot. But now the SUU that writes these classes, that tells us what we need to be talking about, gives us some leeway, but kind of gives us an agenda. We're going to move on now. When you have time, Canvas number 2 talks about the stages of physical and mental development, which is critical. If they're not ready mentally to go on to other stages of development, you know what happens. There's also stages of reading development. Canvas number 4 is just there to be interested. Very interesting. Please go to Canvas number 4. And let me just show you what it is so that when you have time later, you can see how far we have come.
Louise?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Go ahead.
what was the theorist you said that I was trying to write it down, that said that kindergarten is too much like the first grade?
Mari Clay and Lev Vygotsky. They really believe in play.
Clay and Vygotsky, okay.
Yeah, Mari Clay. Mari Clay was in New Zealand, and she started the Montessori method.
Oh, okay.
So
All
I'm
right.
sure you've heard of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question, anybody? Don't be afraid to speak up. I'd love to hear from you. Look how far back this timeline goes. 20,000 BC, back to the cave writing. This is where our education system has come from. Take time and just glance over it. It's very, very interesting. Go through the 15th century, 16th century. I'll take us up to the early 1800s. There's been a lot of changes. You've heard of Horace Mann. You've heard of the clap books and the first readers and Dick and Jane. I learned with Dick and Jane. You heard of McGuffey. If you haven't, you just kind of need to be aware that this is where we've come from. It tells a lot of names that maybe you haven't heard. Phonics, the phonetic method started in 1889. Do you think it's something new? Rebecca Pollard started in 1899 teaching the letter sounds, so there wouldn't be any guesswork, and she used mental pictures. So back to that visual learning. Visual learning isn't new. We need a mental frame in our minds. Nothing new. It's interesting. The activity method came in effect. Reading was considered as thinking, no memorization in the 1900s. Horace Mann, the father of American education and the first teacher education program, he believed in 1918 that education should be required for everybody. 1920, I'm sure you've heard about Pavlov and his classical dogs. How did he get them to salivate? By using treats. And that's when the reward system kind of came in. Sometimes we reward our students, sometimes they need that. And Thorndike, Lincoln, content area, 1925, lots of content area. And then in 1930, we started inquiry. And this is when that schema theory came in. Rosenblatt came in with reader response, maturation, Morfitt and Washburn. I put an article on there for tonight. I'll show you. Should children really begin to learn to read at 5 years old? When we take them to school, is that what first thing we should teach them? We had some articles last week about teaching your baby to read, and some say they're too young. Some say that girls should learn at age 5 and boys learn at age 8. That boys develop physically and mentally later, physically first and mentally later, and opposite with girls. There's a lot of theories that have affected what you teach. In 1930, they started with Dick Jane, see Dick run. 35 came out the basal readers. I thought you'd be interested in some of this. Why Johnny can't read in 1955. This was like an atomic bomb going off. Everybody thought we were doing just fine. Then they did this survey and they found out that Johnny couldn't read. And what are we going to do about it? And boy, did it turn the education field upside down, and theories were coming from everywhere. You didn't know which ones to do and which ones not to do, what was proven. It was just a revolution. Is there anybody in our class that was teaching at that time? Kate, were you? Kate Thomas? I don't think you were you? Kate, you there? Maybe Kate had to step out a minute. And then in 50.
I'm really here, but it's hard to scroll back and forth for me. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
I really wasn't. I'm just a little bit younger than that, so I missed it. But I didn't learn to read using phonics.
Mm-hmm.
I learned whole words and we memorized all of them, and worked just fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are a million different methods, but people have learned to read for lots of centuries using whatever method there was. So if you want to learn to read, you just practice whatever way the person is teaching you tells you.
Right. And in 1955, Flelch believed that we shouldn't have television programs, that they had a negative effect on children. Are we seeing that now? Are we seeing too much technology? I don't know. I'm not complaining, but are they always on iPhones and iPads? I don't know, but it's something that, and then Bloom came out with his thinking. In 65, the most common 17,000 words. Everybody had to know 17,000 words. That was the goal. Would you like to do that this year? Teach your kids 17,000 words? And then learning to read, the great debate. Oh, there were stories, there was research. It just turned the world upside down. In the 70s, you got the schema theory. You hear that a lot. Then mental actions came in, like memory in the brain. They started realizing the brain had some ideas. In the 80s, it was all whole language, literature based. You did not teach sounds. If they wanted to know what that funny thing looked like, you said, that's a V. You didn't tell them that's a V and this is the sound it makes. You waited for them to ask. Family literacy came out in 83. There's Jeannie Chall, the book called Learning to Read. It was a big research case, and I put on a little slideshow for you tonight to learn more about her if you'd like to. In the 90s, we learned about reading in the brain, so much with the brain right now. And then, of course, the 2000s, No Child Left Behind. This is where you have come from, and up to 2006, when spelling was taught in a phonetic method. What have we learned since 2006? That's been quite a while, hasn't it? Now we're looking at a whole bunch of different things, but brain research is really coming into its own now. I just thought you'd be interested in that, so I put it on just to help you out. Any questions or comments on that one? Just to be interesting. Okay, going back to our agenda so you can follow along. I don't want people to get lost. It's so hard, it's so easy to get lost on this, I think. We now are through with all of those, and we're moving from the pre-K first up to grades 2 and 4. 2 and 4, between first grade and second, third, and fourth, are really critical of whether they're going to learn to read or not. As you know, K through 3 is called learning to read, and 4, 5, 6 is reading to learn. So think of the reasons that you learn to read, or the reasons you like to read. I want you to take a couple, 3 minutes now, and I wish you had a partner, to ponder things you like to, why you like to read. I asked a 4th grader, why, I asked the whole 4 or 5 classes, why they like to read and why they did not. Look at their list, make you a little list. Take a couple, 3 minutes now and put down 2 or 3 things why you like to read or why you don't like to read. Any idea, any questions now what we're doing for a couple, 3 minutes? Okay, make yourself a list, ponder, probe your own mind, question, why do I like to read? Why don't I? We'll be calling on some of you. There's your effective fielder. Oh dear, I better do something. She's going to call on me maybe. In 2 minutes, I'm going to call on Andrea. I'm going to call on Sandra. And I'm going to call on Beth. So why you like and why you don't like to read. Andrea, you've been teaching 16 years, right? Andrea?
Yes, that's right.
Why do you like to read or why don't you like to read, please?
I like to read informational text because I like to learn new things and better ways to do things. And I like to read narrative text because I've always kind of been an introvert and that was my way, my alone time. So I would go and escape in my room and just read, and I would kind of like be the main character and get all wrapped up in the story. So it was something I've always enjoyed.
Is there anything you don't like to read?
In high school, I didn't really like being told to read, the classics, but now as I get older, I enjoy those as well. So at this point in my life, there's nothing I don't enjoy reading.
Wonderful, wonderful. Shanda, Emery, you've been 8 years, right? What do you like and don't like?
I really like historical fiction type novels. That's what I read when I'm, not reading young adult literature for school. And I really like all types of fiction. I don't love to read really informational texts. I like to read to learn, but I don't like to read things that kind of read like stereo instructions, those types of things. So those are the things I have a hard time with. So
You put furniture together, but you don't read the instructions, huh?
pretty much.
I know quite a few people that do that, and we redo it again. Beth, you've got 10 years in.
Well,
Yeah, Beth, tell me about you.
I love to read. I read a lot of historical fiction. I also enjoy reading science stuff, informational text. I love to read. I even love to read like magazines with flower plant stuff in it. Goodness, I just love to read.
Good.
I don't love fantasy. My dad read to us a lot, and I still don't like J.R.R. Tolkien or
I don't either.
Madeline Peel, or he read those to us and they scared me a lot.
Yep, me too. Yep. Look under the bed, see what's under there. Okay, those three were nice enough to volunteer. Would anybody else like to? I'd like to give anybody an opportunity that would like to tell us what they like to read and what they don't. Anybody else, please?
I will.
Okay.
So the reason I like to read is to learn new things and relieve stress. Makes me feel like, and it helps me escape. And I love dystopian society books. Anything that's like dystopia and crazy. I like that. But I don't like sci-fi. I hate sci-fi books. And then the reason I don't like to read is because I have 5 kids and I forget about my family and I kind of lose grip with reality when I'm really into a book. So my house tends to get really messy.
Are you there, mother? Are you there, mother?
Right. And that's what they say. When I started new Hunger Game books and I read it in just like 2 days and my kids were like, Mom, stop reading. So.
Do you know who Brandon Sanderson is? Brandon Sanderson has a brand new book. It came through the BYU bookstore. I met him at the Comic-Con and I had to read that silly thing in one day. Don't bother me. Don't bother me. Find you a sandwich.
I've read all like the Hunger Games like years ago, and I think it was all 3 of them in, I think it's 5 days, and I had 4 little kids.
Okay, I see somebody else. Go ahead. Lauren, is that you or Loren? Go ahead. Who else wanted to?
Lorene, actually. Yeah, Lorene. No, I was just gonna agree completely with everything she just said, except I like the sci-fi stuff. I like everything, honestly, but I like to read. I like for fun, to learn new things, to laugh, to connect with people. I mean, there's you read in so many different aspects of things, and a lot of people agree with this as far as, and this is what a lot of the students have problems with, is don't like to read because they're forced to read something that they're not interested in, something that's a little too hard for them, or they get too tired and your eyes are tired. And so there's I think a lot of times making kids realize that this is just a sampling of a type of literature. There's other books out there that you're going to enjoy more, but you'll never know if you don't try them all. And so that's why I love to read so many different things, and I love to read for so many different reasons. But anyway, yeah, my kids will do the same thing as far as like, Mom, I'm hungry. It's like, one more chapter. So they hate it when I start new books. I go in waves. Honestly, it's kind of when I had the literature class, I can't remember the name of it now, we got to read a lot of different different types of literature, and I love that class because I got introduced to so many different styles of books, and it was so cool. But anyway, and so I go on waves with when I read a lot, and then I just kind of don't read it that much, and then I go back to read a lot. And anyway, so it's interesting. It's fun.
Anyone else want to share?
Hi, Louise. It's Kathy. I was just thinking how much I really hate some kinds of things. So, and so there are things I love to read and I'll read all the time. But if you're going to make me cry and I'm going to feel all sad because I have to see all the suffering that somebody's going through, that's like low on my list. I got plenty of suffering on my own and I don't need somebody else's.
Yep.
And I hate the kind that gets graphic. And so I don't do torture, and I don't do, like, there's all kinds of stuff out there that is really pretty mainstream reading that describes a lot of historical fantasy, talk about the realities of what slavery looked like, and when you get ready to talk about those things, I don't do that. I thought I would do more and I would be a wider reader, but I found out that I know a lot about that stuff already and it was already horrible to me. And so when I read, I try to pick something that will be entertaining and make me feel happier instead of something that will teach me about reality and make me hate life. And I didn't realize I was going to get that picky, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten pickier and pickier about the kinds of things that I expose my soul to. And I didn't think I would be that way, but there's stuff that I don't have to know.
Yeah. The fourth grade classes that I interviewed, one little girl said, I love to read, but not if an animal gets hurt. I don't want to see. And she wouldn't. She'd just cry. It just affected that affective filter. And we have to be aware of those things. Is there anyone brave enough out there to say, I don't like to read? Is there anyone in our class that can say that? I don't like reading. That's, yeah.
I'll be honest. I don't really love reading unless I choose the book. Like,
good point.
People will be like, oh, you should read this. And I'm like, not really my thing. Like, and it might be my thing, but, and I just feel, I mean, and I think every teacher can say this, I just feel like I'm too busy and I would much rather take a nap than read a book. And so usually that's what wins, is a nap.
And we have to be aware of all these things as we go, especially in the K through 4. We're trying to read and read so much and get them interested. But it's touchy. It's a touchy subject, yes. I worked with 4 or 5 teachers. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is Jill. I found that instead of reading anymore, I like to listen to books instead. I just don't feel like I have a lot of time to sit and read. So instead I'll just listen. So reading probably I don't like so much. Plus my eyes are getting really bad, so I can't see well. So instead I would like to, I would rather listen to a book.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's very true. That's a good way to do it. I worked with 4 or 5 older teachers. I was helping them with some students in 12th grade that didn't care to read at all. And they're older teachers. And they said, well, we came through with the whole language. It takes us so long to read. We like reading, but we don't sound out all the words. We don't know the phonics. We came through in whole language and we learned to love literature. And so there are people that some parents don't enjoy reading and they don't pass that on to their children. Anything else we want to talk about before we move on? Anybody?
I just have
go ahead.
Comment.
Go ahead.
Comments about. So the girl that said she liked to listen to books. This is so random, but Deseret Bookshelf is the best $10 I spend every month.
Yep.
Is you can listen to those books all you want, and they have like ones you can read too. Okay, yep. So look into that. It's so good. And then my other comment is with Rowdy. Yeah, don't you hate it when people make stuff, you read stuff you don't want to? And I'll tell you, and I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but every one of my kids has had to read Lord of the Flies. I hate
that book.
I hate it. It would never happen. It's a lie. And I actually end up telling their teachers, you know what? I know they're going to hate this book because we've already talked about it. Is there something else they can read? Because I don't want my child to read that book. It's stupid.
I think Lauren's coming out of her seat back there, Lorraine.
Well, my son just barely finished this book, and we went through this whole thing. I even talked to his teacher. She talked about the pros to reading it. And anyway, I finally just gave up and said, Logan, just read it. You'll survive. I did. I hate it. But, he had a great essays to write about it. And yeah, I agree. I hate that book. And it's, again, yeah, I don't think it would happen either. I think it's just stupid. So anyway, but yeah, he learned, he wrote a great essay.
Yeah, and hated it.
Survived.
Yep. Good comments. Excellent comments. Anybody else? That was wonderful. We need to think about all these things. Just little simple strategies. Are we forcing them to?
In elementary, we're encouraged to give the kids choices in what they write about and what they read, whatever. Why couldn't they do that in high school?
Yeah, they came out with this list.
Agreed.
This list. I don't know. I don't know the answer. That's why I'm on this committee, this state committee, trying to figure these things out. Yeah, I don't know why. Anybody else want to make a comment? Excellent.
I want to add something. I think something that's like that I've noticed with my kids at school is if I'm excited about reading it, they're excited about reading it.
Yeah.
So like if I read the first book in a series, that week when they go to the library, they're like, we want book 2. Like, so the more excited I am about it, they catch on to that enthusiasm. So even if reading isn't like a teacher's favorite thing, or math isn't their favorite thing or whatever, kids pick up on that. Like they're like, oh, she's not really that into this, or he doesn't like to teach us that, or whatever. And sometimes it's that, okay, I gotta fake this so that my prejudice isn't their prejudice. Does that make sense?
You are all aware of what the affective filter is. Maybe you just hadn't had been called that. We all have these emotions and these feelings, and your children do too. And there's a book, especially over there we use in the Native American over at Eagle View, where 90% of them are Native American. They don't believe in Columbus Day. There are books explaining it in their point of view, and you have to be very careful about things, not to assign. And the state office used to be, I was on that committee that assigned all these books. I said, this is ridiculous. We don't assign, we give suggestions or this topic. And they finally got off that, Any other comments? Great discussion. Okay, let's see where we're at now. Okay, now this is what the 4th graders said. There's about 20 kids in the class. They like to learn new things, they pass the time, it was pleasurable, they like to be informed, it's entertaining, share experiences for discussion, and they read for classes. They didn't like to read because some thought it was boring, it took too long, always assigned, have to answer questions. They said, I love to read, but I don't want to fill out a worksheet next. Do worksheets. Somebody said it's hard to do all the words. And somebody said I read too slowly. Somebody said I love to read, but it costs too much money. I can't buy them. And somebody says, we always do it alone. I want to do it with somebody else. Try asking your students sometimes why or why not. Get their opinion. Let them know it matters. And you'll be amazed what you'll find out. Okay, now in these grades, reading, writing, spelling, and math, they become critical issues. We're going to do a strategy. It's a 3-pronged T-chart. So instead of making just a T, make a bar across and 2 lines down. And we're going to think of some ideas. First of all, I wish you were all here together. We do a round robin. We would go around the room and everybody would think or tell an idea of how you help a novice reader, an experimenter reader, and a conventional reader. So we're going to have some reports in a minute about what that means, because you say, I don't know what that means. So on your paper, make a 3-pronged T-chart, make a line going across, 2 lines down. The first column is going to be what novice readers are like. The second one, experimenter readers are like, and then conventional readers. And Carrie, let me make sure I got that up as high as it goes. So Carrie, I don't think Carrie's here tonight. I think she had an issue. Rebecca, Lauren, Trish, you're going to read the little article I have here, about 2 pages, about what novice readers are, and you're going to tell us about it. Julie, Marie, Brindy, Jenny, and Stacy are going to read about experimenters. And Nicole, Beth, Cheyenne, Jennifer, John, and Marie are going to tell us about conventional readers. And while they're reading that, these people down here will be reading some of the articles like we did last week, just to give us a highlight so that we don't have to read them all ourselves, but we say, oh, I do want to read that one. So Charlotte and Suzanne, please read the one called Literacy for Different Ages. Amber and Ginger, 10 Things to Know About Reading. Kate and Jill, Phonics in the Primary Grades. Andrea and Corinne, When Young Readers Get Stuck. Shanda and Tony, The 6 T's of Effective Literacy. And Rowdy and Nancy, Beginning to Read and the Sound Foundation. They're all on Canvas. We went down to show you. If you're lost, I'll help you. Okay, we're going to take about 5 minutes and read them through and then give some highlights and come back. Any questions what we're going to be doing now? Anybody doesn't understand? You'll find all of these. Let me show you where. So you'll know where to find your article. If you go down the list, you will find these things. You'll find where it says novice readers, conventional readers. You'll find all of these articles right through here. Anybody lost? Okay, if you're not lost, you have 5 minutes now to come up with some highlights, and then we'll come back and report on things. And then we'll take a break. See you in 5 minutes.
Louise?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Maria Giorgio. You said Marie twice, so I'm assuming I was the first Marie.
Yes.
But I'm Maria. Which article did you say?
Let me
for
go
that
back.
one?
Let me go back and see for sure. Let me get myself back out of here and go to here. And let me find out to be sure so that I don't tell you the wrong thing. Okay, I'm just about there. It's scrolling down. Okay, Marie G is going to talk about experimenters. Marie R, conventional readers.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm right here if anybody has any questions. Have about 2 or 3 more minutes. Please speak up if you need more time. I don't want to waste our time and I don't want to crowd you either. Speak up if you need more time.
I could use more.
Okay. Is that enough? Would you like more?
I need more time.
All right, I can't force you to make a T-chart because we're not in the same room. But this is a very simple strategy that makes children accountable as people give a report or as they share ideas. You simply draw a line across the top and then in one column put novice, one in experimenter and one in conventional, and write down an idea. It'll help you remember if you really want to do that. Of course, I can't make you do it because you're out in your own homes, but that's just a suggestion. As we listen to these people now, be thinking as teachers, if you're not going to write it down, be thinking as teachers, if they tell me these are the characteristics for a novice reader, who in my room, whether they're 12th graders or first graders, who's a novice reader? It could be, it does not mean can't read at all. It means maybe they're in a science class in 12th grade and they can't read the text, or 6th grade and they can't read the geography text, or 1st grade who can't read yet. So a novice reader can be anyone. If I was reading the instruction booklets, like somebody said they don't read the instruction booklets, or if I was reading all about computers and how to do this, I'd probably be a novice reader. But yet I'm really not a novice reader. I'm an extremely fast reader. I tried to take the class called Evelyn Wood's reading class, and they guaranteed to double your speed or give you your money back. They wouldn't take me in because I read so fast. I started at age 18 saying I'll read 3 books a week. A fun book, pleasure book, a fiction book, a religious book, and a professional book. And I have kept that up since I was 17. So I've read a lot of books. So I wouldn't be a novice reader, but yet in some areas, I am a novice reader. I could read all about computers and get through and say, I don't know what I read. So listen to these people tell you the characteristics of these different stages. And we all go through these stages in every class we take or everything we do. And see how we can help the students in your class, apply it to your situation. Let's start with novice readers. Carrie, Rebecca, Laureen, and Lauren. Carrie isn't here tonight. Carrie had an issue. So Rebecca, could you start us off with what you learned from that article about a novice reader, please, Rebecca?
So, like you said, a novice reader would be like a beginner. So, but it's not about everything. So like being able to communicate what they're writing. So they'll scribble and they'll be able to tell you, oh, it's my grocery list, but it won't look like letters. Or they'll find, like in their environmental print, they'll find things that they know what they are. A lot of kids will know like their cereal and, you know, signs to their favorite store or their favorite place to eat or things like that. Do you want me to keep going or save some for other people?
And for the others too. Like if I looked in a computer book, I would know some words, but some I would have no idea. Like James would tell me these things and, you know, over your head. You say over your head. That's another cliche, but it does go over your head. Laureen, what did you learn from the article?
Well, it also talked about assessing novice readers and writers, and it talked about one way is to assess them, obviously, is to collect samples, their actual writing products, assessment tasks that they're specifically asked to perform, showing kids some alphabet letters and asking them to name them. And then it also talks about alphabet knowledge and signature writing, which is obviously I've got a 5-year-old, and so it was fun last year. She loved learning to write her name, and you know, and she's learning more of the letters this year in kindergarten. And that's, you know, the uppercase, lowercase letters, you know, knowing all of those 26 letters and knowing how to write their name. And one thing that I really liked, actually, when it talks about concept about print, you know, learn, actually the next one, but anyway, book handling skills, knowledge about, you know, how to read left and right and letters and words, but the phonological and phonemic awareness, I'll end here, but it talks about rhyming word assessments. And I love rhymes. I love poems, and the teachers can assess the novice readers and writers' phonemic awareness, you know, by asking them to say the beginning sounds that are spoken aloud, and then, you know, of course, then they, you know, find the rhyming words. The beginning. Let's see, what else did it say about that?
Save some for Lauren.
Yeah, I'm done there. No, it's okay. This as far as the rhyming words. Anyway, so yeah, that was how important those are, and helps them to you know, assess the children's awareness of rhyming. And anyway, but yes, I will stop there.
Lauren, what did you learn from the article, please?
The one thing that I really liked is their intent. Like when they're a novice, it's their intent. So like they could have been scribbling with markers before, but now they have the intent of, no, this is my name, or this is what this cereal box says. Like they're trying to become more involved and relate to what they're reading, what they're writing. So they're not just completely unaware of it now, but they have the intent to become a reader or the intent to become a writer, whether that's young children in preschool and kindergarten, or ELL children who are learning a new language, or, things like that. That's their intent to make a connection to what they're reading and what they're writing.
Thank you. Maria, I was going to ask you about the ELL. Does that apply to a lot of your students that you teach? Are they novice readers and writers in English? Tell us about that, Maria, please, for a minute.
So I teach junior high. Most of my students they can read and write. It just takes them longer to comprehend what they are reading in their second language. So it's more about expanding their vocabulary.
Mm-hmm. And Nicole, you teach 8th and 9th. You ever have a novice reader?
Oh, yes, often. I'll get them both in 8th and 9th grade, and some of them are ELL students, and some of them are just students that somehow they got behind somewhere and they just have not been able to catch up.
Yep. Okay, let's look at experimenters now. Julie, Maria G, Brindy, and Jenny. So Julie, will you start, please? What did you learn?
Sure. I won't say too much because I want to save some for others, but the experimenters are doing just that. They're experimenting with what they know about print, and they're trying to make sense of it. They're discovering print and words and moving on from there. So I'll save the rest for
Maria.
others.
What did you learn, Maria?
So I'm just pulling up the article. I will read what I thought was interesting, the 4 new understandings and behaviors that mark experimental readers and writers. So this is what breaks them apart from novice readers and conventional readers. Their thoughtful attitude toward an awareness of print, their discovery of words, their discovery of a relation between sounds and letters, and their ability to focus on only one or a few aspects of conventional reading and writing at a time. So what I liked about this article, and I'll make this short and to the point, is that experimental readers just have an enjoyment for figuring things out. So it's just them learning, and it just made me happy to think about that in that way.
And they have a high effective filter. I can do this. I'm learning. I can do it. Okay, Brindy, what did you learn? Brindy Grange? No, Brindy? You checked in. Brindy, can you hear us? I'll have to check. Jenny, what did you learn then?
Our experimenter readers, they understand that print works in a special way so that they know writing goes horizontal. You'll see more letter-like formations. When they print or when they try to produce writing, they know it should look a certain way. So that's when you'll have your students copying words or doing dictating to you. In your classroom, you'll see like finger pointing because they understand those are individual words. But I wanted to point out one thing that it said in here that I thought was really interesting. And this goes back to involving our parents, the home connection. And it talked about that a lot of children's homes, they have things that they do that kind of propels them into this experimenting stage. And that it says on here, parents, they'll read to their kids, they'll involve them in writing lists and postcards and thank you notes, things like that. And it says, through these activities, children actually receive as many as 1,000 hours of personalized guidance in reading and writing, which I thought that's so, look at how much these kids are getting before they even come to school. So no wonder why you're seeing them in these advanced stages of reading and writing.
Thank you. Brindy, were you there? Brindy, did we lose you? I'll have to find out from her. Okay, then we go to conventional. Nicole, Beth, Cheyenne, and Jennifer Johnson. Nicole, you start.
Okay. in this article, it talks about 3 specific stages, early, transitional, and self-generative, or like critical, whatever. And with the early stage, that's like the beginning stage, of course, and it's like first graders kind of, and they can read some simple text with high frequency words, their sight words, and that's just kind of like the beginning stage of just their reading. I'll leave it off at that and let somebody else continue from there, I guess.
What did you learn then?
Okay, maybe I'll take the transitional readers. That's your like 2nd through 4th or 5th grade. And they are reading more complex text with longer sentences, fewer high frequency words. They have a lot more sight words at that point. And they often transition to reading silently, enjoying simple chapter books. And they're using more sophisticated decoding strategies than early readers do.
Cheyenne, what did you learn?
Something that stood out to me in this is that conventional readers have a keen awareness of their audience. So they start to understand that in different types of writing, they're going to write differently, you know, if they're writing a story versus writing a text, and they understand kind of what language they'll need to use and the style.
Thank you. Jennifer Johnson, what did you learn? Jennifer Johnson? Are you muted, Jennifer? Jennifer Johnson? Okay, Ginger, are you there, Ginger?
Yes, I am.
How does this apply to special ed? All these things you've been hearing now.
Well, we have to know where our SPED kids are at so we know how to teach them.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have issues besides what they just listed, didn't they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to comment on those? Now, if you had been taking a list, like your students, if you had your students have that 3T and write down some characteristics, then you could discuss it again and do a round robin, which helps the short, intense, frequent practice, like the whirlwind theory. You're going over it again. Now you've read about it, you've heard about it, but now you're cementing it in your head with short, intense, little frequent comments. Okay, let's look at a few of these articles then. Let's see, Trish. Oh, Trish, we forgot to ask you. Excuse me, we forgot to ask you, Trish, about the novice, and Stacy about the experimenters, and Maria R about the conventional. You're on the next page. I forgot them. Excuse me, Trish. What did you learn about novice?
I was feeling so left out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to leave you out. You would speak so quiet.
I thought I was going to fly under the radar there for a minute.
You're on the next page. I turned the page.
For a novice reader, you need to make sure that they understand the meaning of the alphabet and that the letters have sounds and the sounds mean something. That they can communicate what's literal and what's inferred as they begin reading was what I gained from the article.
Right. And Stacy, what did you learn about experimenters?
Well, I was really interested because, you know, in my kindergarten, I have my afternoon class where we put the higher functioning kids because they don't need the all day option that the mornings might. And a lot of them are the experimentals readers because they already know quite a bit. And so they're taking what they know and trying to make more sense of it, either in their reading or their writing. And it's kind of cute because sometimes they'll be reading along and getting it totally correct. And I'll ask them, why does this word say this? Or why does this word, they like, I don't know. They're just kind of using their language and their skills to, figure it out. And I think that's really what those experimenters are trying to do. Even though they're not quite there, quite getting why it's that way, they're using all their background knowledge and making sense out of what they're reading.
Sense and meaning. And the brain research says you'd have to, if it doesn't make sense and meaning, whether you're 5 years old or 55 or 105, if it doesn't have sense and meaning, it just goes in and out, literally goes in and out. It's not saved. And Maria R., what did you learn, please, about conventional?
Well, if I did it correctly, that the early stages is more like the beginning readers, so first grade, and they have the simple text. So, and then the transitional, so it had the 3 stages, which I think someone mentioned. So, but I just found it interesting how you can see, I mean, I teach first grade, so I can see right now where we are in that early stage, but some of my students are in a transitional stage already. But then it was interesting to see how the 3rd stage was the self-generative stage, and they're more independent.
Thank you. I went over to the vocational school today, and they were welding. They were teaching welding, and there were novice readers in there. There were conventional readers. There were experimental readers. I thought, I'm going to see how fast I could learn to weld. Yeah, I was a novice reader, but in some things I was conventional. I understood this and that, but I had a lot of words, how to make sense and meaning out of them. So no matter how old or what topic we're in, we have these things. Okay, now just look at these reports, just give us some idea so that if we're interested, we'll go back and read them, but we have an idea of what's on there. Charlotte, what did you learn from literacy for different ages? Are we missing Charlotte? Charlotte? Charlotte Sevier from Iron? Huh. She checked in. Suzanne, could you tell us what you learned from it, please?
Sure, I'll give a quick overview. It's actually really a great thing to print and keep around because it goes from, starts at age 5, kinder, and goes through 6th grade. And it breaks it down into how do they respond to literature? So cognitive development, language development, and social emotional. And then it goes into kind of their characteristics. What do they like? You know, simple picture books, provide opportunities to respond. And then the best thing is it gives you a whole list of literature selections within that group. So just to give you an example, let me skip to, since we talked so much about the early grades, so we go to like third and fourth. So cognitive, starting to show independence, wide range of reading, their memory is improved. They're starting to connect ideas to concepts. Vocabulary grows. They're starting to use words like meanwhile, unless, although. Social and emotional, they're searching for values. And then becoming good readers, they need more sophisticated picture books, poetry read alouds, longer chapter books. And then it gives a whole bunch of selections like A Bear from McGill, The Penderwicks, Tales of Fourth Grade Nothing. So I would highly recommend printing it, especially for us elementary, and keeping it around because I think it gives a really good summary of each of those 3 facets.
It's a good summary of all these grades and the skills and some literature to go along with it. Charlotte, did we miss you? Charlotte someplace, did we miss you? Charlotte Sevier from Iron, did we miss you? I have to check on that. Okay, Amber, 10 things to know about reading, and then Ginger.
Okay, so since there's 10 things, I thought I would take the first 5 and leave the other 5 for Ginger. So the first thing that they mentioned that we need to know about reading is that 33% of American students, 4th grade students, read below the basic level. And the differences between those that understand reading and those that struggle with reading, we can see those differences by the age 3, and race and poverty have a big effect on that. Learning to read is complex. The authors mentioned that it's like learning how to operate a car, but you also have to know how to build the car and maintain the car, not just operate it. You need to keep the end goal in mind when you are teaching reading. So not just teach the skills, but also foster the love of books, words, and stories. And then the fifth thing that they wanted us to know is that kids who struggle usually have problems sounding out words. And for some reason, they didn't ever attain that alphabetic principle.
They missed a stage, huh? And we have to go through, just like little babies. If they don't crawl before they walk, maybe they did for just 5 minutes, but they do. They go through all these stages, or they have some issues. Yeah. Okay. Ginger, what did you learn?
Okay, I guess I'll go through the 6 through 10. So number 6 is what happens before school matters a lot. So what preschools know before they enter school is strongly related to how easily they learn in first grade. They should know know and recognize the names of the alphabet, have a knowledge of print, just like which side of the book is the front, and be aware that of phonemes, that there are sounds in words. Number 7, learning to read is closely tied to learning to talk and listen. This is kind of like the article I read last week, that you have to teach children to listen and to talk before they can learn to read. Number 8, without help, struggling readers continue to struggle. So I guess this is where I come in as a special ed teacher. Many children learn to read by first grade, regardless of the type of instructions they receive, but the children who don't learn, however, don't seem to be able to catch up on their own. Number 9, with help, struggling readers can succeed. For 85 to 90% of poor readers, prevention and early intervention programs can increase reading skills to average reading levels. And the last one, teaching kids to read is a team effort. And I really liked this one. Parent, teachers, caregivers, and members of the community must recognize the important role they can play in helping children learn to read. Research shows that what families do makes a difference, what teachers do make a difference, and what community programs do make a difference. It's time for all those who work with children to work together to ensure that every child learns to read. It is a shared responsibility.
Thank you. It certainly is. What about phonics? Kate and then Jill. Phonics in the primary grades, are they important? Some people think they're really, some don't. What did the article say? Kate and then Jill.
Well, I really like this idea that we shouldn't teach any phonics rules unless they apply 75% of the time or more. So this article has 45 phonics rules. And of those 45 phonics rules, 25 of them are 75% or over. So that would mean 20 of the rules are not valid. And some of them that I learned to teach and teach to little kids when they're doing simple words are like not true. So I was kind of shocked, right? When I got to there and I was like,
just one
oh
idea.
yeah, 2 vowels side by side. The long one of the first one is heard. And the second is usually silent, right? Well, it said 309 of those words are conforming and there are 377 exceptions. It's only true 45% of the time. So at that moment, you're like, probably shouldn't teach that one. And I think that in the instruction stuff that I use and in the things I have, it has all these rules that I teach at some point in time or another. So I think it's going to be real interesting to see if we decide to change it up.
Something to consider. Something to consider. One more idea. May or may not be the best one, but it might be. Jill, what did you think?
Well, she said a lot. It was pretty short, but it was originally published in 1963. So that goes to show you how long this has been debated. But it was pretty interesting because the phonics program that we use also teaches kind of rules, but this article says not to stress rules, but regularities. So I kind of liked that idea instead of saying it's a rule, because most of them don't follow the rules anyway. So
is that the program you use, Jill? What program do you use?
We use Haggerty and Foundations. And anyway, they also said that the phonics the generalization rules were not valid, especially in with vowels. Consonants tend to follow the rules or the regularities more so than the vowels do. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting, but mostly interesting that it's still being argued since 1963.
Will be forever. Yeah, that's true. Okay, Andrea and Corinne, when young readers get stuck, what did you learn about those getting stuck kids?
So this is Andrea. In the article, it talked about how that when students get to a word that they don't know, it's more effective to prompt them to look at the letters and letter combinations and the chunks of the word rather than to focus on context clues, because if they're early readers, then they have a lack of vocabulary. So that can make it difficult for them. They did say that using context clues to monitor comprehension works, but to figure out an unknown word, it's not as effective. So like after they figure out the word, then they can read it in context to see if it makes sense. And if it doesn't, then they can go back to trying to decode the word. And I liked some of the prompts in there that, they say, you get to a word you don't know, and the students often will have bad habits of looking at pictures or looking at the teacher for feedback. And it's good to train them to look at the word. Okay, you just came to a word you don't know. Look at the word and let's break it down. Teach them or prompt them to slide through each sound, break the words into parts, or don't prompt them at all. Just give them wait time to figure it out and know that they can eventually figure out the word.
Thank you. What did you learn, Corinne?
I really liked the strategies, or the strategies that they get, or the prompts is the word that they give, are laid out on these pages in a nice little chart. And I thought, man, I should maybe print this for my little husband, because sometimes when he is reading with our kids, a lot of these strategies come naturally to me because I've been teaching for 12 years and I just, I don't think about it. But sometimes my husband, he'll just say, no, like they'll make a mistake. And he just says, no. And I thought, well, maybe I could give this to him.
It goes out of effect. Nope, I'm always wrong. Nope. And then they quit. Yeah.
Yeah, I say, I've said this to him before, tell him, try that again, or check that. Does that make sense? All these good little prompts that are in there.
So Shanda, 6 T's of effective instruction. Which ones did you like?
I really liked the first couple that they talked about. First of all, time, eliminating those things that really that research shows don't really contribute to the students' learning. So things like copying out of the dictionary, worksheets, things of that nature, kind of the things that just fill up time rather than have a lot of substance. And then they also talked about texts and their complexity, and that we have to be able to supply our students with a lot of texts and texts that are at different levels of complexity to meet the needs of all the different students in our classrooms. And they talked about how that can be challenging too, because there's a lot of time and effort and money that goes into selecting texts that have a lot of different complexities. And then the other one that I just really liked, because it's so it's kind of like, well, yeah, but the third one is teach. And they talk about modeling behavior. So not just telling them this is how you do this, but actually showing them the skill and scaffolding it out and making sure that you're using that instruction time effectively.
Yep. Tony, what did you learn?
I also thought it was a great article, but the last three points that it talked, well, I guess last 4 was No, the last three. The one was talk, and it was saying that in the classroom, there should be a lot of talk in the classroom, but it needs to be purposeful and not just chit chat, like lots of open-ended questions, lots of ways to discuss with their buddy. And I thought that was good. This was interesting to me. They said longer assignments, reduce, let's see, what did it say? Oh, it emphasized longer assignments, emphasize on more fulfilling assignments than just the shorter task. And then they even said something about some writing assignments taking 10 days because they're doing a lot more of it on their own. It's more challenging. It's led to more greater student ownership because they have to do a lot of it on their own. And I thought that was interesting too. And then the last one was talking about tests, and it talked more about having less achievement-based grading and more on student-based grading. And they were talking about how hard that is for parents to understand too. So it was an interesting article.
And Rowdy and Nancy, you're the last ones. Beginning to read and a sound foundation. What did you learn from those articles, Rowdy and then Nancy? And then we'll take a break.
So I really like mine. So it talks about all the different skills, literally from beginning to read and then sound foundations. My big things that I found at the bottom or toward the, well, I guess it's like the middle. So it says some researchers have found that children generally find it easy to learn to read words by using rhyming phonograms, which are nothing more or less than word families that share the same rhyme, R-I-M-E. So then it goes on and talks about how nearly 500 primary grade words can be derived from a set of only 37 rhymes, which we've talked a little bit about in this class as well as in other classes about rhyming and how I feel that there needs to be a bigger emphasis placed on rhyming, that it, you know, our nursery rhymes and everything are kind of getting pushed to the side.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're starting to see kids who might struggle a little bit more, because my kids who are still familiar with nursery rhymes, whether it's just chance or not, my kids who do know nursery rhymes are my better readers because they're able to produce those rhymes very easily. And so I think, you know, that they're able to look at words and decode them a lot easier because they end in similar rhymes.
Very good point. Very good point. Nancy, what did you learn? Nancy Polson?
She isn't here tonight, Louise.
Okay, I'll check on that. Okay, let me show you my purple shirt before I go put my sweater on because it's cold in here. We're wearing purple today. Why are we wearing purple today? What happened today? Why was the color purple prominent today? Anybody know?
Inauguration.
Inauguration, they're combining the red and the blue, combining our country together, and everybody was wearing purple today, or shades of purple. So
I wore purple without knowing I should.
yeah, I saw you had a purple shirt on up there. I'm gonna put my black sweater on now because I'm cold. All right, it is 6:50. See you back at 7. Take a break, move around. I'm gonna put my sweater on.
So I was just supposed to read Experimenters, right?
Yes. Oh, that's Brindy. You're back?
Oh, I have it up. I'm reading it right now. Yes, I'm back. I'm so sorry. I had an emergency and I had to take care of it.
You can tell us after the break. I called you and I knew you were someplace. I didn't know where.
Okay, well, I will just keep reading it then.
Okay.
Louise, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
On our assignment about the articles, would you like us to choose articles that you have shared with us?
Oh, no. They can read those who find something different.
Okay. That was my question.
Something that applies to you.
Okay.
But we can use those if we want. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you're really impressed with them, yeah.
Okay.
So Louise, this is Jennifer Johnson. Just to clarify about the article critique, it's actually 3 articles that we are going to critique, correct?
No, you read 3 and just choose one.
Oh, great. Okay. So, okay, got it. Read 3, choose one, and that's what we'll write about, and that's what
We
we'll
don't have
present.
time for 3. We'll be lucky to have time for 1, but yet we do need to report on some article, yes, because that's part of our syllabus.
Thank you so
We look at the research that's out there now. So choose 2 or 3,
Yep.
one that's of interest to you.
Thank you so much.
You have 2 more minutes on your break before 7.
How many more minutes did you say?
I have 2 minutes to 7. Is that what you have?
Oh, okay. Yeah, something like that. Sorry. I just ran downstairs. I was smelling dinner my husband was making. I'm like, I'm running and grabbing some food.
I had to feed mine before I came. After we fed the cows. Cows come first. We have 200 head of cows.
That's what
100 head of calves to feed today.
Oh, that's what my dad always said. Yeah, always feed the cows first. So
my dad would say, have you eaten? Have they eaten? Maybe you should.
Oh. So I had to look up articles of what you were talking about because I hadn't heard. I'm not on news much, but anyway, but as far as like that wearing a purple, and I looked that up and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. You know, that unifying between red and blue.
They either had
and
light.
the cool thing is, yeah, the cool thing is I have not worn this shirt probably since last winter.
Huh.
And so it's just cool that I happened to wear it on the perfect day. And I just thought that was really cool.
Obama had a beautiful kind of a reddish purple, and the rest of them had blues, or they wore the dark purples. They're trying to bring people together. Red and blue makes people.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's neat.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. Brindy, would you like to report? We don't want to leave you out.
Yes, I sure would. I'm sorry. What?
Go ahead.
Okay. So mine were on who are experimenters, and I really liked it because it talked about novice readers, beginning readers, and how they come to be conventional readers. And it's an experimental process for them. And I really like that it talks about children being exposed to literature and writing at home, in the classroom, and just different ways that they eventually become conventional readers. And I didn't realize that about ELA learners, like how much faster they can become intermediate when they start, or like later on in life. That was interesting because most of our children are intermediate fluency in English when they reach kindergarten. And then when ELA learners or ELL learners come in, it's a lot like they have so much to catch up on, but they can do it in a quicker amount of time. Anyways, that's just a little bit of what I caught up from it.
And we also those experimenters. They're finally coming into their own, and they're experimenting. They want to try things. And if we keep saying, no, that's not right. No, that's not right. We stop it.
Right. That's when I tell my kids, messes are good at that age. You just keep messing and learning and experimenting.
Anybody else have anything they want to say before we move on?
I just had a quick question.
Go right ahead.
So in some schools, they call it ELL, ELA, ESL. What is the correct or the current?
All of them, as far as I know. Maria, what do you call
it?
ESL, and they used to be called LEP, Limited English Proficiency, and LEP is a bad word because it means like leprosy. So it changes. We're trying to be more politically correct. Yeah. Second language learners. We have to call our Native Americans the home language, or I don't know. I don't know the correct term. Anybody out there knows the correct one term?
So currently we are using ELL, English Language Learners.
Okay, on our syllabus, as you read last week, or the first week, we have to talk about research, and that's what you're going to be doing. I found a great book. It's called An Essential History of Current Research Practices. It's by Mary Jo Flesch. And it's like the article I put on there for you tonight, to see where we've come and where we're going. And we go forward and backwards and try new things, and then go back to the old things. And, we're always in a flux. So there's a great book for you. Another book that just came out, if you don't know Doug Fisher, he's on the reading panel. I can't remember what it's called right now, but he wrote this book called This is Balanced Literacy. This is kind of where we're at right now. So if you don't know, They work for San Diego State University and they teach down there, same classes that we're teaching, but this is one of his newest books called This is Balanced Literacy. And another one that I'd like, and I really like this one, is by Douglas Fisher again. It's called In a Reading State of Mind. The brain research is really becoming more and more prominent. How we remember and the things about old age and if we're dementia and the mental state and emotional state. And this is a great one on brain research, how to model your own thinking. This is mostly for middle and secondary grade teachers who need to use modeling to understand complex ideas. We're assuming that they're coming with all this prior knowledge, and sometimes they're not. In our brain, it says remembers everything we have, but unless we keep recalling it, like SIF, short, intense, frequent practices, it loses its sense and meaning. It said if you live by a train station, every time you hear the train go up when you first move there, the woo woo, you hear it. But pretty soon you don't hear it because it's just part of your life. So we have to keep remembering things that are important. So In a Reading Sense of Mind gives you some great ideas. I just wanted to show you those books. Excuse me. Okay, I want to go down here just a minute and just show you some of the things so that in case you are interested, you can look later. Of course, there are more changes in the middle years and adolescence than just education. Their body and their emotions and they go through a lot of stages, and I'm sure you're probably already aware of it, but I put this handout on for you if you want to go through the middle years and adolescence and some of the changes that affects your education. So that's one I wanted to show you. And then I wanted to show you the stages in development. This is one here that you might like. It's very simple in word recognition. If you're going to talk about sight words, which we're going to do in just a second, first you have to have an awareness. And then you have to look at accuracy. That's a very short-lived stage. And then into automaticity, so that it comes automatically. When this was published, it was 1989, and it said that humans have limited capacity for information processing and can only attend to a certain amount of information at one time. So devoting all the time to word recognition takes away the cognitive resources to comprehend. This stage happens about third grade. Many students do this without help. And all that is needed is exposure to written words. That was the big mind-blowing theory in 1985. Brain research now has more or less, depending on whether you believe it, proven him wrong. That we can attain to a great amount of information at one time if there's sense and meaning. Like andragogy, if you see this chart and all of a sudden it makes sense to you, boy, then it hits in your brain cells and you're firing at synapses in your mind, your head is just exploding. Oh, I know that. That means a lot to me. And if it isn't having any sense and meaning to you, it's literally going in one ear and out the other. It isn't completely lost. It goes into from short-term memory into long-term memory, and it's there somewhere, but you need that short, intense, frequent practice. So when you get a fourth grader, don't assume he remembers everything from third grade. He might need a short, intense, frequent review. And we do that. We assume that 12th graders remember everything they've ever learned, and of course they haven't. Okay, another article I just want to bring your attention to. There's one here called What Reading Is. And you know what reading is because you teach it. But here's some ideas that you might share with parents. Reading is about mind journeys. You outfit the traveler. That's what you do. Excuse me, I'm going to have a drink. You model how to use the map. You demonstrate the key in the legend. You support the travelers, special ed, all of you. And you experience the joyful journey alongside them. Their route might not be just in a straight line. We may go in circles forward and backwards. Well, ultimately, it's the child and the man or the teacher together, and they take off on their own. Just a little thing about how very important you are, how very important you are. There is a handout on here called You Are the Key. And I'm going to go down to it as soon as I move down here. You are the key. I would like to have been in your same room with all of you, and as you walked in the room, given you a big golden key, because you are an essential person. You are the key to relationships, to your students, to your parents, to your staff, and to your community. And somebody just brought that up right now, how very, very insightful. You are that key. And so don't ever think that your job isn't critical, because you are the key to success for these students. Let me go down this again. There's one more thing I wanted to show you. You can do this, of course, when you have time to. I can't go there. I can go to the bottom there on that one and go to the next one. And just a second, I'll show you one I wanted to point out to you. There's one here about there's 8 pages about the reading process. And it talks about the different stages we go through. The pre-reading, the reading, and the post-reading. And then it gives you lots of ideas. Reading is complicated. When you say you are a reading teacher for 2nd grade or 3rd grade or 4th grade, what does that mean? Up in the corner, we have this self-esteem, this affective filter. I am a reader. If I believe that, I'm more apt to be a reader. But as a reading teacher, you teach reading enjoyment. And there are 4 parts that go with reading enjoyment. You're also teaching language, oral and written, and all their parts. You are also teaching fluency, accuracy, smoothness, all the things go there. Miscue analysis, semantics, syntax, phonics, context. You're teaching comprehension, both literal and non-literal, and all the parts that go with that. You're teaching word recognition skills with the phonics, the context, the structural analysis, the sight words, what we're going to talk about in just a second, because 8 of you asked if we could. And you're teaching study skill strategies with all these. So as a reading teacher, you are a magician. You are pulling all these things out of your mind, out of the text, out of all your training, and teaching reading, which is really a complicated thing to do. Then I went through each one of them for you, because I've had a lot of secondary teachers, I've had a lot of principals in these classes, and they haven't had this training. This is what I'm on a state committee right now trying to decide what is needed. Do we call them reading coaches, reading, what are the skills to go on now and come back and help the teachers? There are lots of skills that the state office is trying to give you a degree in or a certificate in if you are helping other teachers, and they're called different things. But the secondary teachers sometimes don't know all this. And so I put it in there, and if you already know it, you don't even need to look at it. But if you've never heard these words, and some of these are on the praxis, I know they are, because they want to see if you have basic knowledge. Do you know the science of reading? To know the science of reading, you have to know the terms. If I'm a scientist and I go around talking about bubblegum, that has nothing to do with science. I need to know the scientific terms. These are reading terms, and I'm sure most of you know them, but just in case. And then they explain them to you. They explain them so that if you don't have this background knowledge in your repertoire, and some people that came through with whole language do not know this. My husband is a great example. He hates reading because it's too long and he can't sound these words out. If I take a very hard word that has a lot of sound you don't really hear, he doesn't know how to sound them out because they went through it whole language. He loves reading, but yet he doesn't read a lot because he can't sound them out. So I just put this handout here for you in case you don't know this. I don't know you that well. I wish I did to know that you already knew all this. So now I'm going to see how much you do know. I'm going to give you a little quiz. And it's going to be the one called, let me go down here and find the quiz. It's called Word Recognition Pretest. Go to number 13. Number 13 is a little test to see how much you know about the reading. So try this little test and then we'll tell you the answers. For example, number 1, a word that a child can identify instantly is called a blank word. So go through this little test, take 5 minutes, and then I'll come back and tell you the answers. Any questions what we're doing for 5 minutes? We're taking a word recognition pretext to see what you know. Go ahead.
Are you like sharing your screen or no
Yes,
right now?
Yes, it should be up there. Yes.
It hasn't been sharing this whole time.
Oh, it's supposed to be. It was supposed to be.
I haven't been seeing it.
Oh, I'm so sorry because they told me it was. Let me see where share screen is. Just a minute, because I've been putting all this stuff up for you. Share the screen.
That's what I've just been trying to follow along, but I'm getting a little bit confused.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be there. He showed me that Canvas was there. Can you see it now?
I can see it now.
Okay.
Yep, we can see it. Yes, there we go.
I just assume again, because the guy that was there said, oh, they can see it now. They can see Canvas now. So I've been going to Canvas, showing you things. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm glad I said something. We can see it now, so we're good.
I'm so glad you did. Because I can see it. I assumed you could.
It happens all the time when I'm teaching online, so you're good.
Don't lose sleep over this. Just put in what you think and I'll tell you the answers in just a minute. You're just kind of pre-testing yourself. Speak up if you need more time.
Just a few more seconds.
Okay. All right, number 1. A word that a child can identify instantly is called a sight word. Clues found in a sentence or passage that enable a child to identify an unknown word are called context clues. The English alphabet contains 26 letters. 21 are consonants, 5 are vowels. Consonant digraphs are 2 adjacent letters that represent a single sound, unlike either one of the other 2 consonants. Number 5, consonant blends, or clusters sometimes are called, are 2 or 3 adjacent letters pronounced together but heard separately. 6, the consonant C sounds like a K when it's followed by the letters A, O, and U. Number 7, the consonant G sounds like J when it's followed by the letters E, I, or Y. Number 8, the vowel in a closed syllable has a short sound. Number 9, the first vowel of a 2-vowel combination has a long sound. Number 10, the vowel in an open syllable has a long sound. Number 11, in a 1-syllable word that contains 2 vowels, the second a final E, the first vowel has a long sound. Number 12, wait till I get it up here. The vowel in an unaccented syllable often has a short U sound. A prefix can be added to the beginning of a root word to change its meaning. 4, an inflected ending can be added to the end of a root word to change its degree, tense, number, or meaning. 15, the examination of a word's individual parts for meaning clues is called structured analysis. And that's what I'm going to show you in a minute, a handout that you will have for the week to read and see if you like this new program that's coming out about structured analysis. 16, a contraction is a word that contains an apostrophe in place of 1 or 2 amended letters. 17, a compound word is a combination of 2 words that retain their original pronunciation and meaning. And the last one, when other word recognition techniques fail, a student can consult a dictionary for the pronunciation and meaning, or consult Google now, or consult, I don't know, that Google sometimes gets to me, does it you? They can look everything up on Google now. Okay, that was just an idea of some things that maybe you need to do or know in your vocabularies. Okay, then let me go down here again. I'll show you another one I'd like to show you now that I'm glad you can see it. Look at this one. What a difference 1 letter can make. The first word is apprise. Apprise means to inform somebody. But change one different letter, add an A, and you've got appraise, which means to evaluate. You appraise your performance. What a difference one letter can make. Poor little children. Number 2, the first one means a social blunder. And the second one means a metal hook. One difference, E on the first one, no E on the second one. Number 3, the first one means instill. You work to inculcate confidence in your player or instill confidence. But the second one means to inculcate, you incriminate. I advise you to keep quiet, this lawyer says. Look at mantle. Mantle, the first one means a fireplace shelf. But the second one means a cloak. A little bit of change. In number 5, the first one means to split it into cliques. The city council has been fractious and it's time for unity. But the second one means irritable. You're irritable when you're tired. A toddler might be irritable. Number 6, the first one, averse, means you're opposed to it. I'm not averse to trying new things. But the second one, adverse, means very unfavorable. You take medicine and you have an adverse reaction. And then this last one, number 7, has 3 things. JIB is a triangular sail. The captain would lower the jib and the mainsail. It's on a boat. Add an E to it, and it means agree. I don't agree with what your sister said. And put a G in front, it means to ridicule. They ridiculed the referee. What a difference one letter makes. Isn't that something? And then we need to teach these little skills to our children. Okay, let me go down here again. I'll show you another one I'd like to show you now. Number 9 and 10 are on sight words, and number 11 and 12 are the instant words. There is a lot of controversy right now whether we should teach sight words or just sound them out or what. So I put these here for you to read when you have the time you want to do, if you're really interested. There's word recognition, and there are 3 parts: context, phonics, and the automatic or sight words. So I've explained them to you and given you each level, grades 1 through 5. In grade 1, those are the things they should start to learn. And then it goes on to grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5. So there's about 10 pages here of things that they should be able to do in the different grades. So I hope that's helpful to you on sight words. The next one after that one is sight words and strategies, grade 1 through 5. What kind of strategies can I use? That's the one I wanted to show you right there. That's the one that has the sights and tells you what to do. Have the child print the letter in a small box of sand for first grade. So that's grade 1 through 5 too. So that might be helpful to you on teaching sight words. Let me go to the next one. I can't go just to the corner because the corner is covered by the pictures. So I have to go down it like this. And then there's Edward Fry, these instant words they need to know. And I'm sure you already have these lists, but just in case you don't, that's the sideway one because there's so much to it. And the one after that are some more sight words. So if you don't know which sight words you're responsible for at each different level, that should be a great help to you. And then teaching 3rd graders. What do we need to know to teach 3rd graders? They say this is kind of a real change year. And look at this great big word. What is that? I'm not even going to try to tell you right now because I want you to look it up. That way it has more sense and meaning to you, because it's one of the most neglected things that we do not teach. So if you're really interested, I'm hoping I'm piquing your interest so that you will see that 3rd grade students need to be able to comprehend these things. And I just wondered if we do. So I just put that there to tease you a little, to think about things that you might need to learn in your vocabularies. Okay. And then We went through these different ones, and there are some great ideas here. Now, I hope you'll like this one. Number 16 is called Viewing and Representing. It is a great handout it's a great booklet. And it's how to support English language arts. Let me show you briefly some of the ideas. It tells you the purpose, tells you what viewing does, what printed text doesn't do. It gives you things you should do before teacher guided, student directed, and specific strategies. If there's any of these strategies you don't know, please let me know, like modeling, mini lessons. See, I'm assuming that you are experts because you know what asking questions means, setting a purpose, think aloud, pausing and reviewing. But maybe you can say, oh, I never do viewing journals or paired response. So it gives you some ideas here on how to do it before and after. It gives you some great guidelines. Understanding the viewing process is as important as understanding the listening and the reading process. It tells them how to preview, during the viewing, and after viewing. So I hope these are some new ideas for you. So when you read it through, there's a response. Is it a creative response? Is it a listening response? It gives you about 20, 30 pages here of ideas to help you on visual learning. So I'm hoping that's going to be real helpful to you. The next one is on comprehension, and it's a great big booklet. There's no sense you buying these when I own them and I can just share them because I own them and I was part of it. On that conventional reader, when you read through the articles for conventional reader, you'll read about a research team in 1978, and Gentry is the one that was on the research team, and that's my maiden name, and that's what I was using at that time instead of my married name. So I got to be part of all this novice, experimental, and conventional reader research study, and it was great fun to do all that. All right, so there's all the different handouts for tonight. I'm hoping they'll be helpful to you. Any questions, comments we need to talk about for a minute? I especially would like you to look at Jean Charles' work when you have time, because she is a great researcher that's had a lot of effect in your life. It's called Learning to Read: The Great Debate. Should they begin at 5 or should they wait till later? There's a lot of research that says students shouldn't even come to school until they're 8 because they're just not ready. We're just wasting our time. And some say start at 4 and 5. So this is one that was a game changer way back when. I hope you'll take time to look at that one. Any other comments, questions? Let's see if we've covered everything to your satisfaction. We talked about some theorists. There's the stages of development. You can look to see how we go through it mentally and physically. The timelines, what reading is, what a difference a letter makes. Word recognition, sight words. Here are 21 passages that use those sight words. So if you say, I don't think we need to know that one. This will give you some ideas. This is from Nancy Livingston. She teaches at the BYU. And sight words are her big thing, the thing she really stresses. More than the phonics, she thinks we need to really hit the sight words because children have to automatically be able to say them or their speed is slowing down. So that's her ideas. I'll try to give you ideas from your current researchers out there right now. And there's one more I wanted to show you. There's the booklet. Okay, number 17 is the comprehension booklet. It's a toolkit. And I think it'll give you many, many, many ideas. We're going to take a minute now because there's, I think, like 20 or 30 pages. So can everybody see that? Is there anybody that cannot see the screen? So if you're on your Canvas, please take a minute and see what you think of this comprehension kit. Take 5 minutes now and look it over. There are anchor charts, there's strategies. It's a great book. So take 5 minutes and look it over, please, and give me some comments back. Any questions what we're doing for 5 minutes? We're reviewing the Ultimate Comprehension Toolkit. See you in 5 minutes. If you find something that you like or don't like or have a question about, speak up. If not, just kind of peruse this and see if it's going to be helpful to you.
Have you ever taught mentor text and like mentor sentences?
I did a little, but I don't have a lot of experience. Tell me what you know.
Well, I tried them when I was in brick and mortar or in, I don't know how you guys say it. In virtual world, we call it brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But now that I teach online, I haven't gotten into it. I liked it. I like reading passages and taking things from them and like expanding on them. But I just wondered if you had more experience with them.
I liked it too. I thought it had some real advantages. I saw some weaknesses for the slow readers and so forth, but I did like it generally. I like the idea of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that it like makes it more real world reading to the students, and it kind of like connects it. But that's what I had wondered.
Yeah, I don't have a lot with it. No, I haven't tried it a lot.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
I like that it's down to 5 parts of comprehension: expose, analyze, evaluate, prepare, and apply. Anybody seeing anything they're concerned about or might help them? It goes by grade levels, gives you ideas, grade levels. Take another couple of minutes and just kind of peruse it through. See if there's any ideas in here that may help you with comprehension. Maybe this is not your issue, but a lot of you asked for some ideas on sight words and comprehension. Is that enough time? And speak up if you need more time. Okay, that's there for your use, if it's of use to you, and I hope it is, because there's a lot of good ideas there, and maybe you've already tried them all, but
That was a great article. I'm seriously going to use it in my interventions.
next to the last handout is called Topics for Pre-K to Second Grade. This is just one off the internet that I found. It may or may not be useful to you, but you can go to all of these different things for like adjective and adverbs and click on it and get 165 skills, 69 skills for capitalization, 83 skills for context clues, 180 skills for editing and revising. It just came off the internet, so you could find it there too, or you can go to this and find them. But that's just ideas for you in case phonological awareness is something that you're trying to work on. Just giving you ideas so that you don't have to buy things and you can. Okay, the last one we have at the very bottom. I get it to go to clear down. We have our article report starting next week then. So from the 4th grade, the 5th grade, our 4th class, 5th class, and 6th class. We cannot go over 5 minutes because there's too many in the class. There's not too many. I love having you all, but I mean to take that much time. Cannot go over 5 minutes, just a summary. And all you need to do on the canvas is simply report the article name, where you found it, and just a very short summary, couple sentences, 3 sentences. So if I'm really interested in it, then I would have a way to find your article and be able to read about it. Some of you missed the announcement at the first of the class about recording. I know some of you have to miss sometimes. Things come up. It just happens in our world here. The classes, we thought they were being recorded on the cloud. It turns out the Duchesne School District has a basic Zoom and not a pro Zoom. So we're not, it means we're not a paid account. I think UN County is a paid account. And so when you've been taking classes over there, I think it's been recorded to the iCloud. This hasn't. This has been recorded to my computer. So tomorrow I will come down and James will take it and convert it and put the class from tonight onto my computer, and then he'll put it onto Canvas, and you can find it on your Canvas, and then he'll take it off my computer so it won't take all my space. So you won't be able to view the class tomorrow, but by the next day, if there's anything you missed or you had to miss tonight, or if you miss any of the other ones, the day after class, he will take time and convert it over. It's not hard, it just takes a long time to convert. It takes like 20 minutes to convert it over. So, you know, we don't have time to do it during the class, but day after, you can go back and watch the classes if you want to, or if you missed one. Any questions on that? Any questions on anything we've discussed tonight? The one I wanted to show you that I thought I was showing you is this one, that you are the key. I made pictures of keys. You are the key to all relationships. You are the important part to the students, to the parents, to the staff, and to the community. You are the key. The last thing I put on for you to peruse this week, is a new way to do spelling. We talk about word families. We talk about take, bake, rake, so forth. They're saying now that that's not the way we should do it. We should talk about word families as like hop, hopping, hops, and stay within the same structure. So I went to this, not controversial, but a little different idea. And it's called, let's see where it's called. I know it's here. Let me see which one it's called.
Call them phonemic families and meaning families.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they're changing the terms. They're changing the terms. And I've got to find where beginning to read, silent. I know it's here. Early childhood emergency article report. Maybe it was a large one. Maybe it wouldn't load. Maybe I'll have to load it for next week. Let me see if I can find it. He was trying to help me because it was really a big one. There it is. It's number 19. Number 19 is called Structured Word Inquiry. And it posts on sideways because it's a booklet. But it has some very good ideas on teaching spelling. I don't know if we're going to like the idea or not. When you get home, turn that around so that you can read it, or sit and read it sideways. But it has some good ideas of the newest way that teaching spelling is coming out of Korea and China. It's the way they teach.
So you know what? Looking at that first little table-like thing on the first page, I love that. It's like a word puzzle. I love to do word puzzles.
And they say it works so well, especially overseas. See, my daughter is her husband's in the foreign service, and she teaches in the diplomatic schools. So in her class of first grade, she has 14 different languages those kids speak. And they say this is the only way you can do it when they speak different languages. So anyway, look it over. We'll discuss it more next week. You may or may not approve of it. That's okay. But you look it over and see. As we end tonight, I would like to just go back to the agenda. And at the very end of the agenda, I have something I'd like you just to think about for the week. Let me go to the very end. And it suggests, this is Howard Gardner. See, number 19 is the structured word inquiry. Look that over on the spelling. Also look and see what you know about multiple intelligences. It came into a big favor a few years ago. It was just the big buzzword. And now it's kind of going out. Howard Gardner was the big researcher. So you reflect this week about your own strength. In your classroom, do you have an intelligent environment? The newest research suggests that there are distributed cognitions. Those are big words, aren't they? But your students are coming with distributed cognitions, which is intelligence that extends beyond individuals, is enhanced through interactions with people, animals, books, and the tools you're using to think. So is your class intelligent, fair? Think about these, read these things and see if you've ever heard of EQ and CQ, emotional quotient and cognitive quotient. There's a whole bunch of research. This is where we're going now with that affective filter and our emotions. These are just things to extend your thinking so that you are up to date in the world. Any questions or concerns now as we close? You can stay if you want to and work on things. I'll be here. If you need to go home, that's fine. We're almost up to 8 o'clock. Any comments, questions, anything anybody wants to say as we close?
Thank you for all these articles. They're awesome.
Yeah, they may or may not be of interest to you, but I don't know you that well. So maybe I put one thing out there. If I succeeded tonight to put one thing out there that piqued your interest. See you next week, everybody.
This is Corinne. Did you still want me to present next week or no? On the article.
Number 4, are you on number page? Let me see. Corinne.
I think so.
Let me find my page here. Just a second. Number 4 for next week. Yes. Yes. I put for Jill. Jill, did you say 4 was fine with you? You never got a response from you. Jill?
Yes, next week's fine.
And Brindy, is that fine with you for next week? Brindy? I think so. And Corinne, yes, for next week.
So we're finding 3 articles and presenting on 1.
Just 1, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, good night.